take first watch.
Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of the First Watch podcast. I'm Zach. How now, you secret black and midnight hags? What dost thou do?
A deed without
Deed
a
without a
name.
name.
That was awful. It's fine. We're moving on. Today,
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
uh, today we are actually here to do the second ever First Watch podcast episode of a Shakespeare doubleheader. Those of you who have been following for a long time may remember back in 2021, like the third or fourth episode that we did was
hmm
about Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which is a loose remake of Romeo and Juliet, at least the original West Side Story musical is, and Joel Coen's Macbeth, and we lumped those together as kind of a fun little Shakespeare thing. More fun details on that. The avatar for that was, of course, Oscar nominee Denzel Washington, who's in a film that we're going to talk a little bit about today. And I forget the other thing. Doesn't really matter. Point is, we're dorks. We're here to talk about Shakespeare again, but in a more classical sense this time. As we've teased on previous episodes, there has been, or there was, I believe it's now complete basically everywhere, a Janus 4K restoration series of Akira Kurosawa films. You may notice a new face over in the corner. That is Davey Peppers, who has been on the show previously, mostly to talk about Mass. Did we ever do another one? We
No, I
definitely.
think no, Mass was the only one.
All right, so we were a one and done, but now you're back for the return and for theater, no less, your forte, your
Yeah.
your home base to talk about Akira Kurosawa because you and I saw a fair number of these 4K restorations in theaters,
Mhm.
including Ran, which is one of the two movies that we're here to talk about, which is adapted from William Shakespeare's The Tragedy of King Lear. And I saw in theaters, and I think you maybe just watched at home, Throne of Blood, which is based on the tragedy of Macbeth. So
Yeah.
those are the two main topics for today, but in general, a celebration of Kurosawa, kind of going through what you might consider his major arcana. We're not necessarily going to be talking like lower depths and all of the deepest of deep cuts, but we'll have a nice little talk about his overall career and our impressions going through his stuff. But before we get into all the main material, we like to start it off and talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Davey, as the guest, would you like to kick us off?
I would love to. Thank you very much. Wonderful to be back. It's been a couple of years, but it feels warm and inviting. So I have been going through the films of Iranian filmmaker Jafar Panahi in preparation for his Palme d'Or winning It Was Just an Accident, which should be coming out here in like 2 months or so. I'm really excited for that. And the ones that I've seen that have really stuck out to me are his 2015 film Taxi, his 2006 film Offside, and the 2011 documentary This Is Not a Film. This Is Not a Film, I believe, was the first time that I ever heard about Panahi because there was the story that's not really true that they smuggled the film out of Iran in a USB drive that was hidden inside of a cake. Apparently, the cake part of that story is not true, but the smuggling
He
the
stuck the
USB part.
USB drive up his ass.
Print, print the legend, Davey. Print the legend.
And I mean that's how 13-year-old Davey Peppers knew about an Iranian filmmaker who was currently being oppressed by his government. So the legend
He
worked.
had the golden USB drive and he stuck it up his ass. He smuggled it out.
So it
Christopher Walken.
so it's a good legend and it's a good way to get people excited and enraged in the proper ways. But it's a much more tragic and lonely and self-reflective film than I was expecting, and I think that's been kind of the magic of Panahi's work that
Hmm.
I've seen is just how kind of overwhelmingly humanist and sad it is. Even a film like Offside, that is ostensibly a comedy,
hmm
just spends a lot of time in these kind of long, quiet shots, just letting you be mad about the quiet indignities that are clearly pissing him off so much. But that's been really rewarding, and I'm going to finish that series soon.
I
Um,
like how much of an autocritical streak there is with Panahi. He's
yeah,
someone who's obviously bucking against the regime, but I think that there's also criticism of filmmaking. And in some ways, it's almost like, look at what they're trying to repress versus look at the damage this could actually do. It just There's
Yeah,
an honesty to it. It's a scrupulousness that makes his criticisms feel more valid.
I do. It's interesting that you bring that up because I about an hour ago I finished reading in preparation for this podcast Akira Kurosawa's something like an autobiography, which almost has a similar level of self-criticalness to it. I think Panahi is much better at being self-critical, honestly, than Kurosawa is. Kurosawa just seems mostly uncomfortable with talking about his own life, whereas Panahi is much more willing to use himself as a character in the medium of film that he's the most comfortable with. But I just think it's interesting how these two kind of totemic figures, past and present from different parts of the country, engage with both talking about societal upheaval and revolution. Because in Kurosawa's book, he talks about things like the end of the war and the Toho strikes, things like that. But we'll probably get into that a little bit more later. Another couple of films that I've been watching. I've been doing a French New Wave series because that's been a big blind spot for me. I bought the Criterion 4K set of the Antoine Daniel Adventures by Francois Truffaut, and I like those a lot. Hot take: The 400 Blows is a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've heard that.
yeah. People were right about that one. Other movies people were right about were Cleo from 5 to 7 and The Young Girls of Rochefort. Uh,
Hmm.
Mhm.
I'm an absolute
Ultimate power
loser.
couple, Varda and Demi.
Truly, I looking for a third. Um, but yeah, I'm a big loser nerd. So now I have songs from The Young Girls of Rochefort on my Spotify liked songs playlist, uh,
Yeah.
which means no one should ever let me have control of the aux ever again.
Are you okay? Important binary question here. Young Girls of Rochefort or Umbrellas of Cherbourg?
Young girls, shockingly.
Yeah, that's me too. Cole?
Umbrellas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about it, and he said, "I'm surprised that you're not Umbrellas because it's such a sad boy movie."
And the sung through dialogue feels particularly of a piece with stage musicals,
Yeah,
maybe. It's such a unique approach, but then there's something so much more like visual and fantastic about Rochefort, where
and
like
Hmm.
it's so joyful, and joy
it's
is
so
kind of a
joyful.
it's joy's a hard emotion to get, but those like old school, obviously it's not Hollywood, but Hollywood-esque musicals are so good at it. Like I
Right.
just keep thinking about Singing in the Rain.
Well, and then Gene Kelly shows up
Yeah, and you're just
in
like
the movie.
yeah, you belong here.
As to me, that had to feel a little bit like, oh my goodness, like because he's such a big fan of the studio musical, and then he actually gets like the guy to come and do some choreography and be a character and do some dance numbers. I think Michel Legrand, who's the composer of a lot of these different films, including Cleo, but both of those two, he is who nails the somber sadness of Umbrellas.
Yeah,
That music is what makes you feel sad. That piano is what makes you feel sad. And then I think Demi is more of a naturally joyful filmmaker. At least most of his movies, I don't really associate him with being like dour and sad. You know, he has that one heartbreaker, and then everything else is like fun
yeah. He seems like someone who wants to leave the world a happier place than he found it.
for sure.
And I think that comes from a level of sadness and awareness. Then I think that's how you get something like Umbrellas. But yeah, there's a kind of a mind meld in Rochefort that I wasn't expecting to just be so in love with.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Speaking of fantastical theatrical masterpieces of the form, I finished watching all of the films by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, the
Ah,
Archers, all of their collaborations. And so I finished it off with The Red Shoes, another movie that turns out is pretty good.
yeah.
I say
That's
through
like a
tears.
combination. It's like, hey, we're taking all the colorful fantasy, and you're gonna want to kill yourself at the end.
Yeah,
I'm so in.
yeah, it's
I'm listening.
fantastic. Um, with a lot of their movies, I felt this really strongly with A Matter of Life and Death and Black Narcissus. There are other masterpieces that they made together. There's the type of movie that you think that you're watching and the kind of movie that the reputation is telling you that you're about to sit through, and then by the final sequence of the movie you go, oh, this is like a wholly different thing
Yeah.
that just people are bad at explaining. Like Black
Mhm.
Narcissus is such a weirder movie than the reputation
Yeah.
tells you. Matter of Life and Death is so much sadder, and Red Shoes is so much crueler than the idea of little Martin Scorsese watching these movies going, I want to make those someday, kind of
Right, right.
tells. Um, but yeah,
Just a
that
fun fact for you. Jack Cardiff, the cinematographer, I don't know
mhm.
that those were his first three, but it was very early in his career, and it was Matter of Life and Death, Black Narcissus, Red Shoes. I forget the order. I actually think it's Narcissus, Shoes, Matter in that order. Are
Yeah,
either like his first three or very near the beginning of his career done chronologically. Like you could just retire. Like you could
yeah,
just call it
Yeah.
and you're the greatest of all time.
that's yeah, that's not right. That's
It's not right.
something's
It's not
wrong.
fair.
Having any of those movies having direct or having shot one of them, you should
Right.
just immediately be disqualified from making anything ever again. Just to, like
For
spread the
three of
wealth
them in a
out.
row. In a row.
Three of them in a row is wild because any shot from any of those three films you could argue is the best shot in the history of the movies. And I would go, yeah, you're probably right.
Then he would
Uh,
go on to shoot Conan the Destroyer.
Indeed.
I
Cinematographers have weird careers.
They have the
hey,
best
and
careers.
and First Blood Part 2.
The
Second
hey,
blood, if
amazing
you will.
career. Talk
I'll,
about
I'll
versatility.
I'll give you this for Second Blood. It's better than Rambo's 3, 4, and 5, and that's not nothing.
Setting the
Um,
bar high.
Oh my.
yeah, just a couple other good ones. I rewatched Dogtooth with some
Yeah.
friends, and I
Yeah.
told them that they weren't gonna like it, and they didn't. I
Yeah.
love it.
That was part of our Bleak Week programming here. We got the
Yeah.
American Cinematheque series. We stole it, and they're expanding that. And that was one of our selections for the week. Weird
Too
pick.
funny.
Do you find it a bleak movie just out of
I
curiosity? It doesn't hit me that way.
I found it more upsetting than I did when I was in high school. I like it activates more of like a rage in me of like, oh, the indignities of being a child.
Sure.
But I don't find it particularly miserable. I think The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer are far bleaker,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dogtooth is
Mhm.
just is disturbing and has that kind of more traditionally bleak sense of humor.
I think it's just so over the top absurd
Yeah.
that I
It's a
have a
little
hard
like
time connecting with it that way.
it's a little like doing like the house that Jack built for Bleak Week. Like that's a
Totally.
very grim movie, but my
Yeah,
ass
we've
laughing.
just
Yeah.
in that vein, they did Antichrist, and then this coming next one that they're doing is Dancer in the
Dancer?
Dark.
Yeah.
Dancer in the Dark. So, yeah, for sure. But this felt, I don't know, man. It's just like there's like a scene where he's chasing the cat around with a pair of garden shears, and this
It's
lasts for like two
funny as
minutes.
hell.
It's so fucking funny.
It's so good. I know that you watched Happiness recently for
I
the first
did.
time,
I
and
did.
that's another movie that I think gets incorrectly categorized as a Bleak Week type thing.
That was
And
His,
also
hi-
that was also the same
hysterical
series.
picture.
Yeah,
That's
that
how
the,
I
movie
saw
the
it, was
fucking
the
I
Bleak
okay,
hilarious.
series.
I didn't know that it was officially a Bleak Week thing. Yeah, that movie is also super funny, and
Yeah.
I'm
That one
champagne
I
and your
see the
shit.
bleakness more in the sense of, just the subject matter is,
Mhm.
and there's underage sexual incestuous
right.
things in both movies, and like, yeah, I see how that's like
You know, a guy
you almost
has
need a
a
different word than bleak. It's just that bleak has nice branding because of the American Cinematheque people.
Yeah, you
guy
just
has a
gotta
guy has a dream about being the perpetrator of a mass shooting event. So it's
Right.
not like it doesn't not fit.
It's definitely like dark. It has a dark sense of humor. When you put it next to something like the Turin Horse by Bellatar, there's like a difference in the
yeah.
scale of like that has a bleak outlook on like life and the universe and every pore of the entire movie for 3 hours is like unrelenting. And this is a silly little comedy.
Like I almost feel like you should split them up into Bleak Week and movies that are rated NC-17. Because
Sure.
that's kind of
Yeah.
seems to be the thing that they're looking for. Is
Yeah,
just
it's
movies you
sort of
shouldn't bring a
finding
child to.
joy in the macabre and the strange
Yeah.
and the perverse.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'll finish off. I wanted to add something recent, and God knows I wasn't going to talk about fucking Relay. a movie
You
that
can talk
stinks.
about Relay if you want to
It
talk about Relay.
stinks.
Who?
End of review. But Escape from the 21st Century, it's a Chinese action comedy that came out in super limited release in America a couple months ago. It's on VOD now. You can find it. It's a ton of fun. It's just got a bunch of energy and it's an exciting little movie. So put that on your radars and smoke it.
Cole, what you got?
Well, the first thing I'm going to bring up is Suleiman's story. This is a French drama film directed by Boris Lokshin, starring Abu Sangare as Suleiman, who is a immigrant from Guinea who arrives in Paris and needs, papers to work. So, so here's the thing: it's basically Takeout, but in Paris, and it is a detailed depiction of the nightmare life that this guy has. So, one,
Completely sold.
he's
Yeah.
homeless. So he's living in these rundown shelters every single night. Like he has to text at 5 a.m. in the morning asking for a bed to sleep in that night. He is an Uber delivery driver, but because he's not a citizen, he can't work on his own account. So he has to borrow the account from the friend. But his friend charges him more than half of the money that he makes while working. So he doesn't have enough money to pay for papers or anything good, like anything essential that he needs. So, he can't afford to repair his bike if it gets damaged. He also needs some kind of story to convince the immigration officials to let him live there. So all of his money goes to this one guy who's coming up with this cockamamie story that literally every single officer hears over and over and over again. And he's just caught in this vicious cycle over the last 2 days before his appointment. And I won't spoil how the movie ends, but when it gets to the point where the layers start peeling back, it is a very heartbreaking picture. The lead actor is sensational. I haven't seen him in anything before, but he's a star. He's a superstar. I think this movie just finished up its theatrical run in the United States, which was basically just New York and LA. It's not available on VOD yet, but as soon as it hits, I can't recommend it enough.
Is that a movie release? Who's picked that
Uh,
up?
that it's Kino Lorber.
Okay, woo. All right, interesting.
Yeah.
Guess we'll see what comes of that.
But
That is
yeah,
coming on VOD on September 16th, by the way.
All
I
right.
made a note of it because I wanted to watch it.
perfect, perfect. Another movie currently playing in limited release that I saw is Splitsville, directed by Michael Angelo Covino. So walk with me. It's a little complicated. So Carrie, who's played by Kyle Marvin, is married to Ashley, played by Adria Arjona. He's super clingy. She wants to end the marriage about a year in. He freaks out and goes to his friend's place, Paul, who's played by Michelangelo Covino, who's married to Julie, played by Dakota Johnson. And when he gets there, he finds out that Julie and Paul have an open marriage and can do whatever they want. That night, when Carrie is vulnerable and a little drunk, and so is Julie, they have sex, which is the first time she stepped out of the marriage, even though Paul steps out of the marriage all the time. And of course, all hell breaks loose. I found this movie to be much, much funnier than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be. It is extremely entertaining, smart, witty depiction of how everyone knows how to speak like a therapist, and all it's done is wreck marriages across the world. Dakota Johnson's really good in this. Arjona's good in this. The whole cast is just dynamite, and it also has one of the best fight scenes of the year.
Okay.
I've seen a trailer for this. I have to say, I have no. It looks clinically mid, but I could be wrong about that. Um, the one thing I want to point out is that Adria Arjona and Dakota Johnson are married to individually the two most Mark Duplass looking motherfuckers I've ever seen in my life in the realm of this film, and I find that like a bigger break of suspension of disbelief than like I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but it's tough for me to stomach.
I guess my one note here is that if you didn't care for Dakota Johnson's other summer rom com, you will definitely like this one more.
Hooray!
I'm willing to
Does
take
one
that
actually
bet.
has jokes?
Hey, Materialist had jokes.
It had
Not in the good part of
jokes
that
that I don't
movie.
know that were meant to be funny. I still can't tell. You ever watch a movie and you're like, was that supposed to be funny? I
I there's
can't
like
tell.
45 minutes of that movie that works so well for me, and then an hour 15 where I'm just sitting in the theater, eyes glazed over, like I'm a
Sounds
replicant getting rebooted.
better than what I got. Cole, did you also I'm probing here. Did you also watch a certain illicitly distributed film by a certain American filmmaker who might have made some artsy fartsy bullshit with Jeffrey Wright and others, Willem Dafoe
Quite,
and such in the
quite
past?
Illicit
possibly.
distribution.
Illicit distribution.
The thing is that this movie has no distributor yet. The movie has not even had its world premiere yet. And yet it fell off the back of a truck and it fell in my hands. And I was like, oh, okay, that seems kind of interesting. I can pretend I'm in Venice. Uh, the movie's dog shit. Awful, awful, awful fucking movie. Did
We're
not.
we're talking about In the Hand of Dante here.
I know, and I feel bad because I'm like, am I breaking anything? But like, not
Eh.
enough thoughts into this. Um, I would personally not recommend this. Just watching Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot act against each other brought me really bad memories of 2017. So I would like to
Yeah,
put it away.
yeah.
Did
What the
you
hell?
like At Eternity's Gate?
Eh.
It was fine.
Loving Vincent better.
Yes, I because I fuck with At Eternity's Gate, so I'm wondering if I might enjoy this a little bit more, but that runtime is a nightmare just
Yeah.
to even conceptualize.
It
Diving
felt
Bell and the
fine.
Butterfly's a banger. It's a long
It's
time ago by now.
I feel like
almost
I feel like
years.
that's a Bleak Week movie.
Could be. I certainly was like deeply impressed by that movie when I was 16, whenever I saw it, I think 16 or
Mhm.
17 years old, and was like, whoa, that's such a cool way to do that. And now the gimmick of it's probably, but really good at that. That's probably his best movie, at least of
I feel
what I've
bad
seen.
for shit talking a movie that hasn't even had its world premiere yet. So my apologies, but better luck next time.
Yeah. I don't feel bad for anybody ever. It's what it is.
Oh my
Do
God.
better. So
If they're in a certain tax bracket, then it's
that's
not
right.
my responsibility to. I'm unbothered.
Oh,
If you
and
make movies, I'm gonna clown you if your movie sucks. That's just them's the
Yeah,
breaks. I
yeah.
paid for the ticket.
I
Actually, in
had
this case,
a
Cole didn't pay for the ticket, but
I was gonna say that's the problem is that there's been no exchange of money.
yeah, I should probably Venmo the guy.
fucking
I,
find me.
I had a film professor that was once like, just remember anytime you make a criticism about a movie, about a bunch of people who worked even harder than we do, and I was like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
No, you could be working really hard and my hamburger still sucks.
Yeah,
What do you want me to do about that?
I'm making this short film and I know it sucks and nobody cares. I've been doing this a long time. It's-
Open fire, man. It's cool. It's all fair game.
yeah,
And
it's like
also,
fuck.
genuinely, how fucking disrespectful is it to the hard work that someone puts in to go, well, I won't criticize it because they worked really hard.
Yeah.
That's so disrespectful
There's a
to
It's
them.
line.
like I'm not
You like
criticizing.
lying.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing the grip, lady. Like it's probably the
Unless
guy
like
who.
it's clearly fucked up and I can see like the boom half the time. I'm gonna be like, hey, a little bit
But
of
even
it.
then, that's the editor's fault for leaving that in there.
That's the take
Mhm.
you used, my guy.
We
They're gonna
probably have
use
all had these experiences, but I know Cole can very specifically speak to the fact it's like that clerks thing about the Death Star. You know when you're in the work situation where you're like, oh yeah, this is bullshit. And you're not feeling bad when someone tells you the work that got turned in was bad because you knew where you were working.
Yeah.
Mhm. You live and learn. You live and learn.
So,
The last thing
oh,
I
you
want
got
to
one.
shout out, really quick. I saw the Hudsucker Proxy for the first time
Oh yeah, you
on
did.
35 millimeter
A known Davy Banger.
through the
Wonderful film.
American Cinematheque, who's hosting a friend of the Pod Fest. So it's a bunch of different movie podcasts hosting screenings all over the city for a couple of weeks. This one in particular was hosted by one of the biggest, if not the biggest, movie podcasts on the internet, Blank Check, and it was introduced by Ben Griffin and Marie doing a hula hoop skit, and it was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, super fun movie. Not a favorite of mine, but obvious high points. Jennifer Jason Leigh,
Ah,
Sam Raimi bringing
The
tons of
sets,
energy.
the sets.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I do think that contributes to the overall feeling of a pastiche, and like it's a little lumbering because it just feels big but not very active.
Well, I
I
think part of that is also that the sets got reused. Like they got reused in the Schumacher Batman films. They got reused in Godzilla.
That makes sense to me,
Just that whole kind of
especially
Uncle Phil
Schumacher.
era.
It does, along with Darkman, those feel like forgotten Batman-ish, you
Yeah.
know, it's tangled DNA things.
Mhm. And
Do you
also,
have a rose to throw on the grave of Ethan Cohen, or do we just want to skip that ceremony?
well, his new movie's called Honey Don't, and Honey, just don't.
Yeah,
Just
I'll see it, but
More like honey shouldn't have.
I liked Drive Away Dykes asterisk more than I expected to. Like it was fine, right? It
I
was okay.
fun. That was
It
a
was
fun movie.
Gentleman's Six is
Yeah.
about where I cap out with that one. This
Mhm.
looked more Cohen-y, more of a thriller noir. The Postman only rings once, twice, whatever that title goes, where they get together and Chris Evans, sleazy preacher, like it fun stuff seemingly.
Okay, so here's my complaint. Why are you going to show him in a jockstrap if you're going to tuck in his bulge? Come on now.
Yeah, the Wakanda Forever problem.
I I wasn't expecting that to be the next sentence you were gonna say.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
like,
have to pull.
roulette.
I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if they had a fight or a falling out or anything, or if they just want to do their own stuff for a little bit. But I gotta have my own little Matty Healy talking about Oasis moment in the hopes that they make like Oasis and get back together and
yeah.
go, stop modding with your brother. Grow
The
up. Headline
the
con.
word on the street is that they're getting back together for something. So
Good.
Better.
it looks like the experiments have come to an end.
If this was all just an episode and what we got out of it was a really huge banger Macbeth movie, a pretty good lesbian road comedy, a questionably good, maybe not so good. You know what I mean? Like if it's just like Ethan and his wife fucking off and doing like funny
Mhm.
lesbian things, and
Yeah.
it's like low rent, nobody really cares about it.
Under
There's
90
worse things.
minutes. Both of them
Yeah,
under 90 minutes, which
Yeah, that's
I like, having
mhm.
not seen either of them.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I know that Joel Cohen is currently working on a movie with Josh O'Connor, so I
that's
presume that
right.
after that wraps, they'll get back together.
I'm
That is
awake.
right. So I have very little in the way of new releases. I have one, but it will be covered momentarily, in detail. So I'll talk about one that's not quite a new release, although it's having a re-release in the United States with a new language dub featuring Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh, and that is Ninja 2, which is the sequel to Ninja Uno. I didn't see this when it was released in its original language back
Mhm.
in like the spring of this year. Was it spring? Like
February.
February.
March-ish? February? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was early. I was aware of it. I knew that it was playing at AMC, certainly had the opportunity to see it. Cole, I think that you had a nice letterbox review where you just kind of pierced the bubble where it was almost kind of jarring to think like how Western Letterbox really is. They're based in New
Yeah.
Zealand.
Mhm.
And you see users from other countries writing their logs in other languages and such, but the idea that that movie had like under 5,000 logs or whatever the number happened to be, while
Mhm.
also simultaneously eviscerating the domestic box office rate record of any country ever, not just of
Yeah.
China, but of any country ever by a lot,
It is
it's a
currently
little
the fifth
yeah,
highest grossing film of all time.
it's a
Yeah.
stark reminder that while for me that encompasses a very large film watching population, it is still quite limited, niche, rooted in one culture. It makes you wonder what a letterbox would be like if everyone that watched a movie ever used it. Like how would that change?
Mhm.
Like for Morgan going through the 250, like what movies would suddenly be in the 250 that wouldn't be today
Yeah.
if you
And
really
it
were to
wouldn't just be
expand
the
the
one
bounds?
movie that all of Brazil rallies around and is like, it's the
Yeah.
one
This
on a
is the one.
compendia.
Listen, there's two because they rally around City of God. There's two.
Yeah, but
There's
that was
two.
Western approved.
Yeah, you're right.
And
So
the one from last year, I'm Still Here. That one's
Yeah,
on
for
there.
sure.
that's
For
true. Yeah.
sure.
Good movie.
Um, yeah, I mean, I also part of me just thinks just like how China has their own like TikTok or whatever. They probably got their own letterboxed.
Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah, honestly.
It might be better. Uh,
Deja with the 4.5 average user rating.
I'm actually curious what the average rating on that movie is. I just had it pulled up. I'm sure it's high. 4.1. Yeah, respectable. I didn't see this, and there were a few reasons why. One of them is I didn't see the first one, and I mean, I've been told then and now, and I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and have not seen Ninja 2, you don't need to see the first one. You're not missing anything. It's
Good to know.
standard mythological fare, and the second is an improvement over the first, so don't feel like you're burdened to go do it. I feel like I'm burdened to do it, but it's just because I'm stupid. It has nothing to do with what the movies are. So I did go back and watch the first one. Fine. It's decent. Really nice looking movie. Incredible production value, great animation. It's very DreamWorksy.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you gave DreamWorks a huge fucking budget and just let them go crazy with the visuals, and then
Hmm.
like the tone of it, super like Katzenberger, smarmy potty humor stuff. Not very good on that level. Will make you feel like I'm watching a movie for children. It's very juvenile. And then the second one thankfully drops that a bit, or at least tones it down. I don't know that it's like gone. To me, I would describe it as like it felt like you were going from like Shrek to the most recent Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, where it's much more visually inventive. This movie doesn't look like that. It's just the point is it has that kind of gulf of the two eras of DreamWorks where that tone is maybe a little bit more earnest, and it replaces it with like a sweeping grandiose spectacle that probably is better suited to a theater screen than your home
Hmm.
television if you have that opportunity to go and see it with the new dub. I watched it in the original language. I did not watch it in English with Michelle Yeoh. I didn't see it in theaters. I just watched both of them at home.
Nobody did. It made like no money.
Really? That
I
Yeah.
surprises
did.
me. I kind of thought that there would be a renaissance of it, now that it's like, hey, it's like this big hit, it's had a chance to kind of have word of mouth and posting online and images online, etc. There's a family that I know where the wife is from China and they have a daughter and the wife and so like they went to see Ne Zha 2 in theaters when it originally released. And I
Mhm.
was talking to the dad and he was like, eh. And that was what kind of sold me on like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't need to see this.
Yeah.
It's like if he was raving about it, then I would have thought, all right, cool,
Mhm.
maybe this is a thing. But maybe
Yeah.
it's just not something that Western audiences know the story
That's the
because it
thing.
is
It's just
very mythological.
and it's just not as easily acceptable, accessible, I mean. And it's a movie that basically has the villains look pseudo-American. I
Oh, it's
mean,
such
Evan,
an anti-American movie.
Evan looks like
It
the
is fucking
Pentagon in the movie. It's
hilarious, dude.
hilarious.
I do think that the way that I think A24 has positioned, because they're releasing the English
Hmm.
language dub of the
Yeah.
movie, and kind of how people have started to talk about specifically the second one more. If when they make a third film, I think that will have more of a footprint in America, because I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the long game that at least Western distributors are playing of let's get this movie out there and get it to the point where people can find it on Netflix or HBO or whatever over the next 5 years and go, that was pretty cool, and not even
Mhm.
really think about, oh, it's a Chinese blockbuster and whatever weird baggage a lot of people still have with the idea of like big uh big blockbusters from China.
I
Yeah.
think there is another Feng Shen movie, different director. It's called Zhang Ziya. Sorry, I'm not as
Yeah, that's
good
like the
as
the one that came out like a year or two ago.
2020.
Yeah, okay.
It's been a little bit. It might have made more of a splash here more recently or gotten a later distribution than that, but that was another one in that particular realm. And, cool. I will say I definitely like a degree of mythological storytelling in movies, and I think there's a lack of it, like a serious lack of it. If Jake were here, he would probably be talking about the recent run of Disney movies that they did, and they'd be talking about like Hercules and stuff. And just it is nice to think that somewhere out there somebody's getting this type of stuff into just like the fabric because it just works and makes perfect sense on the blockbuster scale.
Yeah.
Timeless stories, all that kind of thing. And it's a
Mhm.
good entry point. Like there will be people who are like 7 years old right now that will see this movie and they will grow up with an interest in mythology, whether Chinese or otherwise, because they saw this when they were a kid and thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And I dig that. I'm very into that. Speaking of folklore. I gotta pay my dues, which I gladly do. Although sometimes the process of watching movies, especially over a period of time, forces you to reckon with who you once were, the guy that you used to be, the stuff that you used to think and say, especially if you're opinionated. And I think also something that I've kind of encountered this year and last. I've probably watched fewer movies. Like I know Davey, you've been on a tear. Morgan, you're going through the 250, and maybe you guys can speak to the idea that sometimes that puts an undue pressure on things to be like as good as their reputation or as good as the last couple things that I liked. Everything gets very comparative very fast, and it almost takes a while to like reflect and digest. And I just use that as a way to say there have been movies that I have watched and maybe they were about topics like loneliness or grief. And let me tell you, dude, if you really watch a lot of East Asian movies, you will see a lot of damn stuff about loneliness. You know, just people living in some empty apartment. And so when you get to a movie like Tsai Ming Liang's Vive l'Amour, you might just be in a phase where you're like, I have seen 30 movies like this in the last few months, really. And so the emotional wavelength mixed with how the movie progresses and plods and it just doesn't really hit. It's like listening to an album when you're not in the mood for it, putting on the wrong disc. And we can all fall into that. I use that example because I that movie got bumped, right? It's one of the movies along with Heat and along with Daisies by Vera Hitchilova that inspired one of my more novel letterbox lists that people comment on is movies where I've increased the rating after a rewatch. And Vive l'Amour went all the way from a 3 star up to a 5 star, although that happened over the course of time. I rewatched it, I saw it in theaters, et cetera, et cetera. Another movie that recently got that was one that I hit with a three bagger, and it's kind of relevant to Mr. Akira Kurosawa. It's from 1954, and it is a jidaigeki
Mhm.
film by a director, Kenji Mizoguchi, who is somewhat of a role model for Kurosawa. In some ways, they were contemporaries, of course. I'm like this movie was 54, same year that Seven Samurai came out, but Mizoguchi is an older filmmaker, had been around the block a few times, and there's certainly a lot of ugetsu in Kurosawa's game. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of that shared DNA from the elder statesman down to the younger savant. And the movie that I'm referring to now is Sancho the Bailiff. And my review of that movie is ow, and also damn, and also wow, and also that's it. That's all I have for you. Pain, suffering, anguish, beautiful compositions. I have no idea where my brain was the first time I saw this. You
So
know,
glad we finally saw the light.
I just, Mike, like every frame, every image, you're just like, oh, this is a fucking classic. It's
That is
insane.
why that is why I am constantly watching dog shit. Because you guys keep resetting the barometer so I don't fall into
It's
the trap
important.
you fell
It's
into.
important to
Yeah.
watch movies that you really have no taste for. I think I had a kind of inclination as we were going through the Kurosawa stuff, as I should say, as I was going through Kurosawa stuff, when I watched Rashomon, which is from 1950, I just had a hankering for something like, and we'll get into this more with Kurosawa. There's varying degrees of how you do these period films. Sometimes they're very artful and abstract, and sometimes it feels like getting hit in the head with a rock. And Sancho the Bailiff is that end of the spectrum. We had a whole episode on Marketa Lazarova. Cole and I have talked about this kind of thing before with movies like The Northman, with movies like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, the Herzog picture. Sometimes a historical movie really is unrelenting in its historical subject matter, and I think that that is one of the things that Sancho the Bailiff brings to the table. Is there's artifice and style, but you do not really feel like you're watching something that's heightened. You feel like you're there at least about as much as you could ever be there. It also just feels in a way like an older studio movie than it actually is. It's from the 50s, but it feels like an American studio film. Like it feels like John Ford or something, like really, really classical. The way that characters move on the set, just big sound stage design. They don't make them like this anymore type of picture. Ow. Just same composer as Rashomon, same studio. That's the Daiei as opposed to Toho. And I would say that like Daiei when you look at the fact that they've got Ugetsu, they were the production studio for Rashomon, and then this Sancho the Bailiff. There just is a little bit of that historical flair, I think that isn't as much a part of the DNA as the two movies that we're talking about today, Throne of Blood and Ron. Like historical movies for sure, but
Yeah.
different. It's a different type of tone. So that helps the sort of somberness. I will say, for those who may have struggled with this movie before or watch it and find themselves like, oh, this feels it's a little slow moving. It is. It's 2 hours. It's deeply engrossing. And I remember being like, sometimes you watch a movie and you feel engrossed and you're like, wow, I can't believe so much time has passed. We're already over halfway through this. This was like, wow, I'm so engrossed and I'm only 40 minutes in. Oh my goodness. Ah, it's a slow walk through tough times with these characters and not for the faint of heart. But I think that if you have a heart for it, it'll take you far. Have you seen this one, Davey?
No, but you compared it to Marketa Lazarova, so I'm fucking in.
It's less cold and hostile than that. I don't that's not entirely true. It's more warm-hearted. It's got more compassion.
Marketa Lazarova is a very compassionate film.
I
It's just
know, I
also
know.
a miserable piece of shit.
It's you'll see what I mean. There's
Yeah,
like a European cold ass sensibility to Marqueta that I just think Mizoguchi's a more warm-hearted guy. You know, he's
I get what you're
Osaka
saying.
Elegy, all these movies about women that are just like tearjerker, heartbreaker. It's about how life as a woman is just a complete fucking nightmare all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I once I'm done with my French New Wave series, I'm gonna do I think my next like period of a country is gonna be like a post-war golden age of Japan
Oh yeah,
thing.
some
So
good stuff there for sure.
I'll
Oh
add
yeah.
this into that because I'm gonna do like human condition and a bunch of stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, I might need some wellness calls in like
Yeah,
January of
right, right.
2026.
For sure. Anyway, that's what I got. Morgan,
On a similar note of things that
Atonement.
atonement, this is a good word
redemption.
for it. Um,
Joe, right?
a little bit of back flogging, get the whip and
Our Fathers, Hail Marys, things of that nature.
when I was 19 years of age, I want to say, it may have been younger. I watched the Bob Fosse film All That Jazz for the first
Yeah.
time after my good my good friend Jake, uh, co-host of Jen and Jake's uh I know it's a riff on Bizarre Adventure, but I can't remember what they actually called it. Like it's like Bonkers Antics or something. I don't know. It's the other show on this channel. Co-host of that show, former co-host of Jams and Tea. He watched this film and it immediately became one of his 10 favorite films of all time. And I watched it and I was like, it's good. It's fine. I don't get it. And then found myself in the film Twitter culture that we were in at that time, suddenly inundated with people who thought this was the best movie ever made. And so I watched it again a couple months later and was like, I don't get it. Um, gr greatest of gowns,
Yeah.
the most beautiful gowns. So now, 6, 7 years later, something like that, I see that all that jazz is playing in the Kentucky Theater Summer Classics series. And I go, there is a chance at redemption. And I'm afraid that if I don't save my soul before my time comes,
Right.
then it will all have been for nothing. So I say, and I walk after I park my car, because I live about 20 minutes away from the Kentucky Theater. Uh, I park my car a couple blocks down because it's downtown Lexington and parking is annoying. And then I drag my jeans and t-shirt wearing ass through a sudden and uncalled upon downpour into the front of the Kentucky Theater, and I says to myself, self, if I don't click with this movie this time after walking through this downpour, after all of these years, after all of these expectations, everyone I know has five-starred this movie basically. I say, self, if it doesn't hit this time, I'm gonna carry on with my life because who really fucking cares anyway? But anyway, I sit down I watched the film, and I don't know who that 18 or 19
Yeah,
year old was that saw the film the first time and second time was. I All I can really pin it on is the weight of the expectations that had
yeah,
suddenly been thrust upon me.
Mm.
Um, but now seeing it in a theater of people who, you know, if they hadn't seen it before, were certainly in on it.
mm,
You know, laughing in the right spaces, giving space for the right moments, and applauding at the end and all that. Uh, Seeing it in that environment by myself on a Wednesday afternoon, my heart was filled, and a wrong, a cosmic wrong, had been righted. And that may be the best feeling in
yeah,
films when you get the Danny DeVito at the end of the It's Always Sunny
yeah.
in Philadelphia episode. I get it.
Can't force it, can't fake it.
Yeah.
That's the
Nope.
biggest thing, right? Got to be honest with yourself. You have to give it the 3 star that first time, where you're like, you know what? I don't give a shit about this. It's like that's not what every 3 star means. It's I give a shit
Yeah.
about some 3 stars. Don't get me wrong, but like, I the reason that I have the list, it's like it's a reminder to me. It's not a target. Sometimes I watch a movie. I watched Dog Day Afternoon. I didn't raise. It was already a great movie. It's not like I had that low, but
Yeah.
every time I watch, I'm like, am I gonna like this a little more? There's a question, but usually it's not the most common, but it's a very rewarding feeling.
Yeah.
Mm.
Couple other things I want to hit. There are actually a couple of new and new-ish releases that I caught up with. I caught up with Nobody 2, the Bob
Ah,
Odenkirk vessel.
indeed.
Uh, Being a fan of the first Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk, and seeing that Nobody 2 is being directed by Indonesian
Timo,
hood classic filmmaker Timo Tjahjanto, I think is how you say that. Not 100% sure. I was like, okay, I'm in. It's less than 90 minutes. We'll rock with it. This movie sucks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oof.
it utterly rancid. It really speaks to Timo's skills as a stager and filmer of action, that this isn't like a one-star picture, because this is the worst script for any movie I've seen all year.
Wow.
Sharon Stone needs to go to bed.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's over. It's a wrap. Really embarrassing stuff.
Yeah. It's a
Uh,
miserable experience.
it really was. It's less than 90 minutes, and I was the only person on my phone telling. I was the only person in the theater, and I looked at the phone unashamedly several times. So it's just fucking like wrap it up. Caught up with Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme now that it is on Peacock.
mad fine.
Good movie.
Yeah,
No real reason that I skipped this in theaters, other than just laziness, I guess. But
you were a big asteroid. You're west, middle of the road, but liked
yeah,
Asteroid City.
the thing, with the exception of Moonrise Kingdom, I
Like,
like every Wes Anderson
yeah,
film. I only really love Fantastic Mr. Fox, but I do have a lot of affection for specifically Tenenbaum's French Dispatch and Asteroid City.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
Phoenician Scheme, little less than those. Still enjoyed it. Over the moon to see Benicio get a lead role.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
More, it's like a 3-star type joint that I gave a 3.5 for the Hanks Cranston basketball scene, which made me laugh harder than anything I've seen all year.
I was a big
Um,
fan of the blood. I just like Jeffrey Wright, and I like him with
yeah,
Wes Anderson, so that was maybe my
Mhm.
corner.
yeah. It's a good film. Looking forward to whatever he does next. I'm sure it'll arrive in the next
Was that
fiscal
a
quarter.
that was not Yeoman, right? Was that Double Now?
Yeah,
Or am I
that's
okay? Yeah,
correct.
because the black and white sequences
Macbeth as fuck.
very Vlaschel, very like Marquetta, very the others,
Yeah.
Devil's Trap in them.
I kept
As
thinking of Matter of Life and Death during those black and white sequences
Sure,
sometimes.
sure, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it literally was like the tragedy of Macbeth for me was what I was thinking of, and then it flashed like 2 minutes later, shot by Bruno Del Bono,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, well, all right. Um, I also this is recentish, but I want to mention it specifically because we have Davey on the pod. I caught up with the Sebastian Stan vehicle, A
Ah,
Different
yes,
Man.
indeed.
Very, very strong feature film. Very much enjoyed it. Reinsve has yet to do any wrong in my eyes and appears to be keeping that streak up with the next Joaquin Trier joint. Um,
Our
Sebastian
guy
Stan.
Sebastian Stan in fucking Dracula and Frankenstein and no, he's just in Frankenstein, but he's also in the new Mungiu. He's
Yeah.
not in Dracula. I lied about that part, but he's in Frankenstein.
Guy who went from fucking Bucky Barnes, whatever,
Right,
to
right.
to oh, he's for real in the
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
of, an hour and 50 minutes or whatever, how long this film is.
Mhm.
Um, the biggest takeaway from this film for me emotionally was it perfectly understands what it is like to have a new guy join the friend group that everybody loves and you just fucking hate him. You cannot articulate why. There's no good reason for it. But every alarm bell in your head has gone off and said, this fucker is wrong. That playing video, that motherfucker's not real. Um, this has happened to us over and over and over again.
Yeah, but you're
And
vindicated when it happens to
I
us.
Right.
tend to be, film Twitter people, they tend to be jackasses. I don't know
Yeah.
what I don't know what that's about. I don't know what it says about us, but they are.
This
Uh,
and the Substance hit right around the same time. I think Cole on the blog, the WordPress that you had, I
R.I.P.
yeah. Look, it's there's always time to resurrect it, as we've proven time and time again with this very podcast. But I think I wrote the first post I ever wrote was about those two movies compared to each other because they felt like sister movies. Like they felt like twin
Yeah.
movies to me. The way that it's like beauty on the outside, on the inside, kind of
the
a
ma the male
ex
versus the female.
the externalization of your own self-loathing, basically. Lots of creepy, icky body stuff. I think the obviously it's much more late on in the Substance, but it's a little more just ugh, in a different man, or at least it was for me. That movie made me very
Yeah.
uncomfortable at many different junctures.
Both very funny movies in different
Yeah,
ways.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, a different man is like, I'm going to have sex with my girlfriend after I've stopped having this very particular looking face. And she's going to tell me to put a replication of that very particular looking face
she's
on in
weird
bed.
kink, weird kink,
Not
but
to
go off.
shame, but
But it
a
was
little bit of, but a little bit of shame maybe. Um, anyway, uh,
Yeah, the substance
but
is funny. A different man is,
yeah,
oh God, funny.
I think there's
yeah.
some. I would challenge just to say there is a little oh God in the Substance, but mostly very
There
funny.
is, but it's goofy and goopy enough that like
Definitely.
the substance played at Regal and a different man played at the art house theaters.
Sure, sure. Did we eat a
Uh,
different man at AMC? I think we did. I can't remember now.
played here at
Yeah,
AMC.
I think that's where I saw it. I
Yeah,
could
Cole,
check
you
the
guys
tag.
don't fucking count.
Hey. That's funny because Sebastian Stan is actually my funniest celebrity encounter story because
Uh,
I was at a party one night and I literally did not recognize who he was until the next day. They're like, I'm like, hi, how are you?
it's that Romanian guy.
Completely blew past me.
Buy the stock now. This is as cheap as it's going to be. This is
Ugh.
the time to buy.
even even post Oscar nomination, this is
Indeed.
the cheapest it's going to be.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, the best time was 6 months ago. The second best
yeah,
time is now.
Exactly.
yep. Uh, gonna be pretty brisk through these. I
Yep.
totally forgot that I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre in theaters. Uh,
Fucking banger.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
That we
a
did an episode
banger,
on this one. Listen
a
to it. It's
banger
good.
that we have waxed poetic on this
Indeed.
very show in a previous iteration. Uh, seeing it theatrically in our rinky-dinky ass theater in this suburb of Kentucky on a excruciatingly hot day. Uh, it's type
Folks,
two. It's type two fun. Type one fun is it's the fun while it's happening, and you're like, I am enjoying this. Type two fun is like, I'm glad I experienced that.
Yeah.
Uh, Royally unpleasant experience in the best way possible. Uh,
Outstanding.
Nothing better than being trapped in a sweaty box with uncomfortable chairs while you're watching uh maybe a snuff film. I'm still not
Yeah.
totally sold that it's not.
Close
Hell
enough.
yeah. It's like a snuff
Uh,
film with experimental editing. It's really the greatest thing anyone's ever made
it's
for
probably I don't
$70,000 or whatever.
yeah. And speaking of the greatest thing ever made, caught Michael Mann's heat at the Kentucky Theater
The
and their
loudest movie ever made.
I was
and the
gonna say, let me
following.
just say those two together. Sound design.
Yeah, that was a Monday and then a Wednesday that I did that. Uh,
Fuck.
so I was really just it was it ain't it didn't it's never gonna be that good again.
Heat
Uh,
was like the inaugural number one on the aforementioned bump list. A movie that we watched together. It was my largest riser for a long time. Now it's in
yeah,
third.
I take credit for a lot of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
valid.
there was a wealth of everybody else taking credit for that as well, and which
Yeah,
they should. And I came to the conclusion while watching the film in theaters, it was like sort of like a post-concert experience where
yeah.
you're like, I'm a little deaf and on an emotional high that is unparalleled. And so I had the thought of, I think I prefer the Lord of the Rings trilogy in general to this movie for in terms of jockeying for my favorite film of all time. But I don't think that if he was to go up against like Fellowship of the Ring or up against Two Towers or up against Return of the King, it could win any of those three pairings. I think Heat would come out on top every time. As a
Nerdy
whole,
letterbox thing. I think they eliminated that Lord of the
they
Rings thing
did,
and they
they did,
replaced it with
and
the singular film.
I'm furious.
Yeah, fuck
I
that.
need to I need to write a letter to somebody.
Yeah,
Um,
bring it back. Put it back. The publishers fuck J.R.R. Tolkien. I almost said J.K. Rowling. Forgive me for that.
Jesus.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I caught it. I get
Moving
it.
on.
It's her fault. She knew what she did when she did that. But yeah, anyway, we are moving on.
Uh, the greatest film anyone will ever make. For me, the action is the juice.
Yeah. She had a
Just to,
great ass.
and I had my head all the way up it.
I also got to see like 2 months ago. I also got to see it on the big screen, and it just solidified one of my favorite cuts in all of cinema is when Ashley Judd is signaling to Val Kilmer to turn around, and it's just a quick cut to her hand on like the railing, just sliding across. Something about that cut is fucking electric to me.
Mm.
He's he gets out of that T-bird with the new haircut, and you're like, this. Why was he not the greatest movie star of all time?
Rest in
What
peace.
happened?
He's too weird.
It's too weird, yeah.
And
Hmm.
that is our fault.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He hitched his star to dudes like Joel Schumacher and other such projects of
D
that nature.
dir Director of Second Blood, George P. Cosmatos' Tombstone.
Right?
Uh, Continuing in the top 250 releases that I'm catching up with, uh, I watched John Cassavetes' opening night,
Oh,
which
indeed.
somehow preferred To a Woman Under the Influence. I would go so far as to say that Gina Rowlands is better in this film than she is in A Woman Under the Influence.
I find it more enjoyable. We had that whole conversation on the last recording
Which
where it's like
which is funny because this is yet
it's
another film
yeah,
about a woman dying.
yeah, under the influence, as it were. I
Yeah.
think there's something so much meatier. I'm not trying to
No,
ouch Mabel Longetti. This character is more steely.
it
Like
is
this character
well
is ready to parry and joust with these dudes.
it's like written in a way that A Woman
Yeah.
Under the Influence doesn't feel like it is. They're
Just
both
that whole
but
fucking opening scene, dude, is so fucking peak. Like
uh
he's just coming down on that big ass stage. Oh,
he
yeah,
cooked. I will watch everything that this man ever did. Uh but yeah, that's all for me.
yeah. Shadows is a banger. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That's all I'm gonna say.
Not a hard sell for me at this point on
Yeah.
anything you did.
You got to be open to the new wavy vibes of it, because it's a weird movie, but it's good. So, oh, there's one thing we got to talk about. I'll pitch it though. I'll pitch it because we've all seen it. I saw it early, and that is this is an Apple and A24 collab, similar to the Denzel vehicle, The Tragedy of Macbeth, I believe. And that is the latest Spike Lee joint, highest to lowest. Can't have a Kurosawa episode as we are doing without talking about the Kurosawa inspired, adapted, infected, inflected, whatever it is. He's got the high and low button up shirt on.
Reimagining,
Sure,
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
both of them are adaptations of an American pulpy detective novel.
And
So
yeah,
up in the air.
yeah, called King's Ransom. And I'm not gonna be able to remember the name of the author off the top of my head. I've never read it.
I will not either.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a story about a guy who's very rich, and one of his employees' child is kidnapped, and suddenly the intention was to kidnap the wealthy man's son. The wrong child is kidnapped, but there becomes this moral dilemma when the kidnapper still wants to get paid for it. If you've seen High and Low, you know the story. This is called Highest Two with the number two, lowest. So it is conscientiously something that is a riff. In the credits, it says adapted from King's Ransom and adapted from High and Low by Akira Kurosawa and the various cadre of screenwriters that wrote that picture. Again, I got to see this early. They did a preview screening at the Alamo Draft House. Nice sold out experience. Only a 2 week run on this, so it did not play at AMC. I don't know what chains it actually hit. Where did you see this one, Cole?
So I saw this at the Landmark on Sunset, and yeah, this did not play at AMC. I think it's played at Regal. I think Regal's a chain that's
Yeah.
more into streaming movies.
Yeah.
AMC is very much a
They need a
absolute
they need
con.
that real theatrical window where they're not going to do it. That seems to be the pattern at this point. You give them that 2 weeks and they're like, nope, don't care. Bye. Which I respect.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to see the Spike Lee movies in theaters, but at the same time,
Mhm.
play the game or don't, you know? Sarando, so this is not a Netflix thing, but I didn't really mention it with Ninja 2, is just this whole thing with or no, sorry, wrong movie. K-pop Demon Hunter, which had
Mhm.
the large release, and it's made all the fucking money in the world. And Sarandos just has to be looking at himself like, people want to see movies at the place where they show movies? I can't believe it. This is the first I'm hearing this.
I
Uh,
know like circuiting.
what's that?
That man's brain is short
Oh,
circuit.
100%. I may it send him to Jesus, uh, and away from me.
It's he's not going to Jesus.
Please, you think any Hollywood executive is going?
Amy Pascal might be allowed in the kingdom of heaven.
I don't know about that. She said some things that are very.
She'll need to make some apologies, but
Yeah.
she's the closest we've got.
I'm on pray for him. Inshallah, as Jeffrey Wright might say.
In highest to lowest, this is the fifth Denzel
Yes.
and Spike Lee collaboration after, let's see if I can get them all. He Got Game, Malcolm X, Mo Better Blues, and Inside Man, which was the most recent back in the year 2006 or aught 05. Aught 6,
Six.
it doesn't really matter. Okay, I had it right the
Which
first
was
time.
the
Good.
same year as Miracle at St. Anna, which was like Inside Man, Miracle at St. Anna. That movie sucked.
Inside Man being the umpteenth but most literal direct take on Dog Day Afternoon, what with the
Yeah.
bank robbing and all that goodness. So this brings Spike and Denzel to classic partners back with each other. We've had a little bit of time to talk on Malcolm X. I really wanted to get back to that. Unfortunately, it played in theaters the exact same day as Ron back here did. So that wasn't going to happen. Had to make a choice. This also has Jeffrey Wright, as we've alluded to. I've kind of name dropped him a few times throughout this. He plays the chauffeur in this film, that is an employee of Denzel's music mogul executive. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's certainly a multimillionaire. They are closer in this movie compared to the Kurosawa film, which maybe is just the best way to open the can on. It's really hard for me to even think about this movie and not go, well, in the Kurosawa one, it's like this. And in the Spike Lee one, it's like the Simpsons stand-up comedy joke. Like you can't, especially in the first part of it, because just, the setup is we have the family and they all love each other. It's really great. Dad's really rich. and the people that work for him love him because he's a genius. There is an element of he has this integrity that the men around him don't want to have. You know, everybody wants to make the industry that he works in a cheaper, shittier place to work, and he's like, no, we have to take it back. In this case, to the music, and high and low, it's shoes. So there's that. I
Mhm.
kind of wish they would have left it be shoes. Let him be a shoe mogul. I get the music thing. It's much more obvious in some ways, and we have ASAP Rocky in the mix. But
Yeah,
like,
how you gonna
just
put
do the
a
shoes.
how you gonna put a A$AP Rocky music video at the end of this movie? She's not a music mogul.
So here's an idea. You don't do that.
Fuck you, do that.
I like that
You
part.
get
We'll get there.
one music video at the end of the movie. You can't have two of them, Spike. I want to go home. I have to.
The second one was a little bit much.
Yeah, we'll get there. I want to talk a little bit about structure. High and Low has a very famous structure, I would say. It's kind of a tale of two halves, along the lines of a movie like Barry Lyndon or Jaws, although different than those things. It starts off compressed. We are in the high rise in the penthouse with everybody, and we're arguing with the business guys, and we're going to make the business deal. And oh no, the kidnapping's happened. Ah, and what are we going to do? And now here comes Tatsuya Nakadai. I know I realize I'm talking about the other movie right now, but we come in and we're trying to solve the kidnapping thing and we're tracing the phone calls, and then finally the moral clarity comes. The rich main character decides I'm gonna pay the ransom, and now we break out and we sprawl into this one train set piece, and then two, the whole police procedural that defines the second half. It expands like crazy, and that's really, really notable. So I kind of want to talk structure here because, again, it's hard not to compare. Because I think that there are some opinions of people in this group about how the first half of this all came together in terms of the moral dilemma, living in the penthouse, and things of that nature.
I think it's a structure, but also just like how that structure is pulled off. I think claustrophobia is really tough to do because you can claustrophobia can sometimes come off as cheapness because you're trapped in a kind of condensed space and you're not really working with a lot of the tools that filmmakers are usually working with. And that's the difference for me is like that first hour of high and low is so claustrophobic and so tense. And the first hour, it just kind of feels stagnant, like they're obligated to be stuck there. I don't feel stuck with the characters. And I think part of
Right.
that is because of how much time it spends outside of the penthouse before everything gets
Sure.
going. But
Yeah, when you're going to like the basketball practice or even just outside on the balcony, there's like a lot of breathing
yeah.
room and extra space.
And he's
It's
like
also just,
beautiful helicopter shots and like, hi, Rick Fox is there. That's neat.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's like it's sort of just the innate difference between like a black and white film, especially in the 60s, especially one by Kurosawa, versus a digital 2020s movie. Like, not that Spike Lee can't block an image, but it's not abstractly that like kind of theatrical blocking that I think contributes so much to the feeling of rigidity and form that is not bendable. Like, it's like we are stuck in this space and this is the only space. You can go here, you can go there. That's all we have. That's just not part of the arsenal here in terms of
Yeah.
the look and feel.
And it would be weird if it was,
For
because that
sure.
is a
Yeah.
specifically like very Japanese way of both constructing a film of that nature in the parts of that film that feel like that, and also like constructing a living room. Like this is what this apartment looks like, and if this apartment looked like this in a penthouse in, Manhattan, it would be weird.
Right.
Which is not, guy's a multimillionaire. They do weird shit all the time, so it's not like it would be that hard to swallow. But it wouldn't necessarily flow in the. I mean, it also would be the same.
I would
And
love to
Right.
see
this
Denzel play an otaku and just have it be a perfect replica.
yeah. The first hour or so of the original High and Low is my favorite part of it. I love just like the stage playiness of it, the way the actors are blocked in that small space, like, they're on the they're listening to the phone calls, and then he's like, "Quick, he's looking at the apartment. Everybody hide." And
Right.
there's
Everybody's
just
ducks down.
and he gets all of that in wide shots mostly in the film. Like you see all of it. It's very like the framing of it is less something done with the camera and more something done with the staging and the blocking of the actors,
Hmm.
because he captures so much of it. That's not the case at all here in this opening hour. Um, to be perfectly frank with you, this movie feels utterly staid and just, present, but not interesting at all. Kind of anonymous for this first hour. Denzel is good. Everybody else on screen, who is not Jeffrey Wright, and even Jeffrey Wright takes, I think, too much of a backseat in this first hour or so, in the film in general, really. Uh, Denzel is good, but he's like knocking every scene partner he has to pieces. Like they're not, they feel barely present.
Yeah.
And that says something about the character of David King, but it's also not all that entertaining to watch. Like the guy who works at this shoe company who sort of
He
is
was
at
like
odds.
the long-term assistant.
The long-term assistant who is at odds with
Yeah.
Kingo Gondo was like a presence in that film. He's not
Yeah.
Toshiro Mifune, but he like can go toe to toe with that guy. And there's
Right.
nobody like that
When he
in
makes his turn, you're like, "Oh shit, that
yeah.
sucks. That's a hit."
And like everybody who's like that in highest to lowest is like, well, yeah. Just like why would you not?
The engine of that original movie to me in that sequence, everything before the train, we'll just cut it off at the train,
Yeah.
is the moral conundrum. It is the process of a character making a decision and working through the consequences of the possible decisions he could make. Because really, it's like, and then the hell are you going to blackmail me for? You don't have anything of mine, right? I literally feel indignant upon upon the behalf of this really rich guy where I'm like, what are you even trying to do? This scheme sucks. But it unfolds and it unfolds and obviously there's this kind of quiet desperation of the father character compared to Jeffrey Wright. They feel so much closer here, like they know each other, they're much more familiar with each other, like buds, in a way that maybe just kind of cuts the tension, or the way that they're like older teen. I don't know. Just something doesn't really
Yeah,
hit me about it.
I've been reading The Godfather for the first time, so like I'm seeing this in everything. But it's a little like, you know, David King, Denzel is Vito, and Jeffrey Wright is like Luca Brasi or something. He like brought him out of the muck, sort of, and gave him this really steady position and almost like a role in his family, which is not at all the dynamic of the original between Kingo Gondo and his driver. And I think that's a good impulse to lean on. Because it's like I feel like if you're gonna do this movie, you should zig where high and low zags. But they don't commit to that relationship at all beyond like a sort of expositional dump of like, these are the things you've done for me. And I thank you for that. Kind of like there's a couple moments like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I knew the moment. I didn't hate this by any means, but kind of like you're saying, it's a little bit like, all right, we're going through, here we go, we're doing it. The cops are here, we're listening to the calls. Like none of it's bad. We're just going along. And then we get to something really good, but before that, there's this missing piece, and I knew right then and there is like, okay, yep, you lost. Like the game is over because they don't do anything clever in terms of the bag, or like how they're going to use the bag to find the guy, which is such a key thing. It just was immediate, like, okay, the procedural elements of this in the second half will not matter. They won't matter. If they find the guy, assuming that it follows the same plot line, it will be fucking random. It will just be like movie screenwriting nonsense that gets us from point A to point B. And therefore, you have abandoned, in my opinion, what makes this story appealing. And like that sounds really harsh, and I'm overlooking an important middle piece that had me super enthralled. But it was the lack of that moment where in the original he sews into the bag something that basically says, like, if he tries to destroy this, there will be an indicator that we can use to be like, he's over there and we found the guy, right? It is the key moment of High and Low. You will know it if you see it, but it's just so clear. Like, and to your point, Morgan, it's like when you're doing the remake thing, you don't just want to remake a movie that exists. You don't just want to do everything the same way. But at the same time,
Spike tried this once.
indeed, but you have to find fucking something. I think. Like you can't just ditch everything and then just kind of play it down the middle at the same time. To me, there was not enough to replace it. Although, to the extent that there was, I would say that it was entirely based on changing the locale to New York City and in particular, Brooklyn, where I believe most of this is set. And then we sprawl out to different parts of New York via the subway line. We go to the Bronx to a Yankees game during the kind of big central set piece. And that's where this movie has its most sparkle.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the train set piece in the middle of this film is pretty undeniable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
This
the
is
minute
where,
that it switched to the 16 millimeter imagery, I was like, all right,
yeah,
you
I
got me.
was
That
like
was cool as hell.
It's
for
the
the first
lock-in meme.
yeah, for the first 45 minutes to an hour or so of this, I was like, man, this is kind of whack. Uh, and then you just lock in
Yeah.
for that train set piece. And honestly, it's a little hokey and screenwriter bullshitty through the rest of it, but I was in. I had a great time with the rest of it. And that's mostly down to, I think, the second half is a massive departure from the original High and Low, which is what I wanted from the picture to begin with. So I was happy with that, even if I'm not 100% on board on how it got there. Uh, but it wisely keeps Denzel centered. He's in almost, I think, every scene of this film. Um,
If not very close.
yeah. Uh, and there's an excellent confrontation with him and ASAP Rocky, who does a really excellent job of being like a dumbass, but who's also like an absolute hype beast for himself. It's a lot of fun to watch. Uh, there's a great confrontation there in his rickety ass recording setup that I really
Yeah, Cole,
love.
you kind of had an interesting comparison for this one, I thought.
Yeah, so I, well, to clear the air, I am not precious about remakes. They are old as the industry itself. I mean, I commandeered an entire episode of this podcast into defending the Gus Van Sant Psycho remake. So,
We did do that. That
I am
that
not,
happened.
I'm not precious about anything.
And
What
and we did another on both Suspirias. So we
Mhm.
are both pro the shot for shot, and we're pro like fucking throw the original in the garbage and do some new shit. You know, run the gamut. I get it. There's a lot of ways to proceed.
Yeah, and what I found really fascinating about this was how much the first hour kind of plays like a 90s melodramatic thriller. Especially a large part of that comes from the, you could argue, overbearing score, but I
And
really
I
dug
would.
how dramatic it is.
I
You
didn't
know,
mind the score, but I mostly was noting it during the subway where it's kind of more plucky, upbeat,
Oh,
kind of like
it's
that.
fantastic there. I'm talking about like the little piddly twinkly shit when like
Yeah.
David King is having a conversation with his music mogul partner about like AI or something. I'm like, will you shut up?
Right, right,
It's
right.
I
it's
can
not
barely hear these people
always
talk.
it's not always bad. It is always overbearing though. It's like a Chris Nolan movie score. It's like whether you like it or not, that shit is overbearing. I am
mhm.
Right.
overbeared.
It is blasting over Ice Spice, and that is totally fine.
Ice Spice, who was hyped up and then was in the film for
Four
11
Five
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for her
Here,
to show back up.
I know.
I
I
learned
thought,
who Ice Spice was for nothing.
I, oh, come on. You've learned some.
I am still not 100% convinced she's not a Spice Girl.
Yeah.
So fucking mad at
She's
you.
a
How dare you?
Dunkin'
I,
Donuts
I
spokesperson.
once again
That's Ben
Uh,
Affleck.
must
They did a
on-
thing together. It was a
yeah,
collab.
they collabed.
once again
I'm
have
so
to
bad at everything I've learned.
ponder how much of this particular segment I have to cut later. Anyway,
No, honestly, I thought Ice Spice was going to show up again as ASAP's girlfriend, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that was another rap lady.
oh, was that Princess Nokia?
That sounds right.
The phone?
I got nothing.
You have so much to learn.
No, he
So
doesn't.
you said Nokia, right? Like the
Yes,
phone?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Her name is Princess Nokia.
We're
But the
not out here,
comparison.
Cole, we're not out here teaching you about Hollow Knight Silk Song. Like
You
we
want to
we
learn
don't
about Hollow Knight Silk Song?
We could.
You want to learn about Donkey Kong Bonanza?
I
I'm
do.
Morgan's like, I'm cutting all this shit.
okay. Ice Spice aside,
Yeah, I
uh,
was curious about your comparison, the comparison that you made
can you remind me what it is because my
to the other New York boy, Martin, Uncle Marty.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, totally fits in a Scorsese vein almost.
Yeah, I believe it was specifically to Mr. Pupkin.
That
Ah,
is
yeah,
definitely
that's
King of Comedy.
so King of Comedy. I mean, ASAP Rocky is basically playing Pumpkin, and he's doing a great job. Honestly, I was very impressed by his performance.
Yeah, it's an interesting because it's not like an anonymity rich guy poor guy thing. It's like struggling artist and guy who won't give me the time of day
Hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah. And there is something to be said about this movie about the idea of unfettered black capitalism
Hmm.
and how far that can really, lift people up.
I
Because
would I would stand my ground and dig my heels in on anybody that thinks that this movie's got like a significant amount of stuff to say about it. Like, yeah, I mean, he's a little out of touch with stuff because he's rich, but I
Mhm.
don't think Spike has the venom for this kind of thing. He's got
Not,
venom
not,
in it
not
to
anymore.
attack things, but I don't think he has the venom to attack Jay-Z and Beyonce or whoever our true paragon of this would be. Oprah, right?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't think because he's that person. He is this guy.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, if you just look at the poster in the boys' bedroom,
Yeah, right, right.
I was like,
That
why did they shoot this?
that was such a fucking glaring, like sitting in the theater, they're having like a genuine heart to heart about the kid who's like, Dad, we're getting blasted on social media. You got to do the right thing.
Mhm.
1988. Uh, and there's just this fucking Kamala Harris. It's 1989, by the way. It's not 88. My bad. But there's this fucking Kamala Harris poster in the scene, just like the entire time, like looking. She's doing like a look up. She's not looking down at them, but it's still like, ah,
I was
it's
just
Huh.
like slowly turning my head. I was like, coconut tree?
yeah, like that's either sort of nonsensical because when they were filming it, she would have just been the vice president. She was not yet the candidate.
Yeah.
Or it was like an edited in thing after, which would have maybe been greenlit when she was the candidate and
I
then
think,
was released after she lost. Like, ah.
But if that's a VFX thing, then you
yeah,
can
it was
take
added
that,
in post.
then you can take it out because you had 7 months after she lost to the Cannes
That's what I'm
premiere.
saying. Very funny. Funniest detail of the whole movie for
Fucking
sure.
Control Z that shit.
You know, my parents got a button when she was running in 2020. There's still
But
on our
your
fridge.
parents were not a teenage boy.
That's
So
the
true.
really confusing
So
thing.
true.
I'm like, is this like one of
That
those
is
18-year-old boys for Hillary or something? Like, what
of
is going on here?
of all of the true things that you've ever said to me, Zach. My parents are not a teenage boy is the most true of them.
It's absolutely factual. You can check up on it. I guarantee it will come out correct. I just, yeah, subway set piece, electrifying. I don't want to go too far because the subway set piece of the other movie's better still. Like,
Yeah.
because you have these actual elements of procedural stuff. To me, that's the most disappointing aspect. And it's impossible not to think about it because High and Low really, to me, sits on a throne with movies like M or Zodiac or All the President's Men to an extent. It's journalism, obviously Zodiac's journalism, but like true, real deal police procedural stuff. Not like Seven, great movie. The police procedural stuff is very detailed and meticulous, but it's kind of surface level mystery because it's more of a noir and they're being led along a path, yada yada yada. This is like the ultimate version of that. And I understand in my heart why Spike Lee is not going to do the
Yeah, I
cops,
was
cops, cops, cops,
literally
cops,
just
but
about to say.
fucking pick a different thing then, because that's what this is about, Spike. Unless you want to make a point about that, about how the cops are fucking pieces of shit, and that's what the movie's going to be about now, is like they failed these people because they suck. It just feels like a lack of commitment to the material.
I
That's what
really
I will say.
gotta I really gotta never see that guy from the Allstate commercials ever again.
Yeah. He's great in the television show Oz.
Take your word for it.
I forgot that Dean Winters was in this movie, and I was like, what do you have against Dennis Haysbert? He's great in Far From Heaven.
No,
I
that man's great in Heat.
Let
You
him
He
go.
never.
is. I first assumed that I had forgotten that Dennis Haysbert was in the movie, then that Dee Winters was in it, and he's like fourth build.
I'll readdress a point that Morgan had started to make, which is that one of the more iconic scenes of the original film is near the end where the two of the main characters, Toshiro Mifune and that dude from Tampopo, whose name I do not know, he's also in Kagemusha, have that conversation through the glass. They're having the prison conversation through the glass, and it's the high, the low, it's the whole thing. It's a great scene. And then the confrontation, the very first time that ASAP and Denzel in this movie meet face to face, they're on opposite sides of the glass in a recording booth, and like they're like rapping at each other a little bit, like they're like throwing out like bars at each other.
That
And I
was fun.
thought that that was such a clever way to do that scene, right? Really
Yeah.
cool. Obviously, then it like escalates, a gun gets shot, they go on a chase. And then they just do the prison scene for real, which was a weird choice. But then, okay, all right, so I'm skeptical, and the music video hits, and I
They
was like,
shoot it. They shoot
fucking
it.
banger.
They shoot it really cool. The prison sequence. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
Libatique on this. Looking
Yeah.
forward to Caught Stealing later this week.
Oh, I didn't talk about that. I did see that movie.
Probably gonna do an episode. That is
Yeah, well,
possible.
yeah.
We'll see.
Uh, the Superior New York infected subway slimy banger movie. Really, really good. Really, really fun. I'm looking forward to hearing what other people think about it. Um, so like the music video thing is cool, and if that's like our credits moment, like amazing. Probably getting a full half-star bump from me. It's working really well. And then they just have the prison conversation again. It's like, ah, end this movie.
And then after that,
He said in an interview that he was invited by Ryan Coogler to screen Sinners, and I believe that he did based on how many fucking endings this has. He was
What I,
like,
listen,
"Oh, I get it. Yeah."
what I
li
do like about the
listen.
inclusion of the prison scene is that it kind of nails a point about how forgiving uh, hip hop can be of abusers.
Particularly the scene where he's kind of coming in through the steps.
Uh-huh. It's like there's just so many people still fucking jumping up and down for Chris Brown's crackhead ass every single day. Like,
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just saw a TikTok about one of his
and off
concerts.
themselves. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Happened
Or
to Iggy.
even like who's that guy XXX Tentacion who's like dead now or whatever, but like
Yeah.
those kind of guys.
Mhm. The aunts who defended R. Kelly for years.
Mhm. Yeah, it just didn't feel like it committed enough to that stuff. It's like a very general middle of the road take on the story, a little bit of culture stuff sprinkled in. It's all right. I enjoyed it. I think I
Whereas
lowered my score since seeing it. Like just the more I think about it, the less committed it feels to anything that it's trying to do.
Yeah, it's fallen in my estimation since seeing it as well.
I
Because
liked it.
yeah,
It's definitely his megalopolis. Make him happy. And yeah, I still like,
I
even
mean, I
though the
mean,
motherfucker broke the fourth camera to yell about how much he hates Boston, we live rent free in your head, Spike.
Amazing stuff.
that part was good.
I love it.
Every movie should
I'm
have someone
Boston
stop the
pulled the
movie,
emergency brake.
just yell about a thing you hate.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
it.
We're gonna have to back up. I need you to elaborate on the Megalopolis thing.
I think part of that is inspired by the fact that before Megalopolis, there was a conversation between Francis Ford Coppola, Spike Lee, and who was the third guy? It was
Robert
Robert
De
De
Niro.
Niro,
De Niro?
who was fucking asleep at the wheel. This is a terrible situation, all that kind of stuff. So the three of them all kind of had like
Well,
a
he was
talk.
asleep until they mentioned Trump, and then he woke up
Right.
like a sleeper agent.
Yeah. And then, so I think that's part of it. But then the kind of like, yeah, you can elaborate on your
Yeah,
point if
I
you
mean,
like.
most of it's just like the late style, the more
Yeah, very
lackadaisical,
digital.
very digital, just willing to embrace like modern technology and play around with it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like late Lucas in a sense.
The thing
I
that's different for me with Highest to Lowest is that like The Five Bloods doesn't have these problems. Black Klansman doesn't have these problems.
The
I
Five
like
Bloods has some problems, I would say.
it has problems, but it doesn't have the specific kind of like digital laziness problems that like a Megalopolis has, or even high like Megalopolis didn't shock me because I've seen Twixt, and Twixt is also digital and shitty. Like I hope that Spike reverts from some of the issues of Highest to Lowest.
I think like I didn't expect to walk out of this and be like, I preferred Black Klansmen. The Five Blood makes sense because there's such a personal nerve that that movie hits that even when that's the kind of the Spike Lee magic is like, look, sometimes these things get fucking unruly and have
Summer of
problems
Sam.
that I would
Yeah.
dislike in other directors, but they have
Mhm.
such an energy and such a verve and usually an emotion. There's a righteousness, an anger, something, a sardonic sense of humor. This just didn't really I think Denzel's got some juice, but it's not really
I mean,
he's
he's
not
always.
really yeah, he's in a wonderful little phase of his career. He's just in full dad, I don't give a shit mode. I'll do
Yeah.
Mhm.
whatever. I want to do what I think is fun. I want to do what I think is cool.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see what it'll be doing in Black Panther 3.
Probably something crazy. We know that he won't watch it. We recently learned that he does not watch movies.
I mean, that
Good for
seems
him.
more sarcastic in its delivery than anything
Could be.
else.
I think he's just a theater boy.
Yeah. Theater boy at heart
Yeah.
also just hates the press circuit and will,
Yeah.
shred them any chance he
I mean,
can.
he's done it for so long, so many times, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll just say I would have jettisoned the three of you into space to see his Othello with Jake Gyllenhaal on Broadway.
Oh, no doubt. No
Yeah,
doubt.
I
What a
would have been
great
happy if
segue
he
into
didn't.
the next portion of the program.
Her ticket's
Uh,
like $900.
Yeah,
I
that's why
didn't
we
he
would
even
has to
have
look.
to
kill
get that's
us.
why we'd have to get jettisoned,
Yeah.
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 I would need to become a contract black market killer to afford a crumb of a ticket.
No, I guarantee that shit goes hard. They should just get Joel Cohen to do an Othello movie. Just
Yeah.
like
I'm
uh,
awake.
again,
I'm
do
listening.
it again. All right. So we're gonna pivot and I'm gonna do my best. We've made some promises about doing things quickly and we're not always great about keeping those promises. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try for you.
You just dab on here, it's fine.
We're going to talk about one of the greatest directors to have ever fucking done it. Are you ready? We're going to get ready right now. And we're going to start with this is not one of the ones I saw in theaters, but we're just going to roll these out in chronological order, starting in 1948 with Akira Kurosawa's Drunken Angel. And I start here, not because it's the first movie he's ever made. There are other earlier things, some of which very well regarded, such as No Regrets for Our Youth, which stars Setsuko Hara. There's kind of a major-ish one. What's the name of it? It's Sanshiro something. I
Sanshiro
haven't seen it.
Sagata,
Yeah,
his first
that's a
film.
movie. That's usually like the earliest movie that anybody's ever seen of his.
Yeah, that's his first. That's his like directorial debut.
Is it really
Um,
his debut? I thought he
yeah.
might have had one or two before that. I know he's got
He
kind of a string of earlier ones.
he spent a lot of time as an assistant director in the Toho mines, and like did a lot of work as a screenwriter. Shout out again to the autobiography I just read.
Right,
But no, Sanshiro Sagata was his first film. It is not great. It's like fine. It's like 85 minutes.
right.
I would
Period film.
typically,
I think there's a
yeah,
sequel to it.
there is. The
But
sequel is by all accounts like his worst movie by a lot.
so there's this progression, and I think it speaks to the studio era he came up with and some of that history that we've lost that allows for these long-standing collaborations between actors, between cinematographers, screenwriters, production designers, etc., that allows directors to get really precise. And
Yeah.
it's when you go through a lot of these in a row, you start getting like a fucking tear in your eye because you're like, we don't have Akira Kurosawa's anymore because we don't let guys make 12 movies that are mid before they
Yeah.
figure out how to really string some good stuff together. So these first two from the 1940s, starting with Drunken Angel, that's his very first collaboration with Toshiro Mifune. He's
Mhm.
playing a gangster that has tuberculosis in this like little rat hole criminal infested town. He's basically like the appointed ruler of the gang territory, but it turns out that's because the real guy that really runs it is in jail for attempted murder. And then Takashi Shimura is the titular drunken angel, an alcoholic, cynical doctor who nonetheless has a heart of gold, very Takashi Shimura stalwart type of Kurosawa performance. To me, this is a little stagey, it's a little social realism, but there are things at play here that will become part of the masterpieces in just
Yeah.
a couple years. I don't think this is quite major, but there's a turning point here, not only because Mifune's in it, but because of his ability to kind of render the community as a place in the film and the different characters in it. That's its greatest shortcoming is that it's not a little bit more robust there, but I enjoyed this quite a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Next movie up to bat, baseball, 1949's Stray Dog, which I think David and I both saw in theaters. This is another
Yeah.
Mifune and Shimura collaboration where they're like the two-hander. Get used to that. They will run the length of this conversation in many ways. This is about a young detective, a rookie detective who loses his gun after making the new role and instantly kind of falling into a sort of noirish plot in an attempt to try to get it back. And he's taking on the guise of a soldier, walking the streets looking for a gun. Eventually, the gun is used in a crime to murder somebody, and he checks the ballistics, and it matches. Oh no! And he gets with Takashi Shimura, who is the police officer, or excuse me, the detective who is investigating the case. This is a much more like the last movie. Shimura is very like gruffy, and in this movie, he's like perfectly like leader smarm like guy that's been around the block enough times to know every little bit of it, next to Mifune, who's in like a rare rookie role. You know, he seems very young and green and unformed here compared to his usual confident self.
He's panicking, which helps that it's one of the sweatier movies ever made.
Oh, ever made.
Uh, it's a sweaty ass picture.
It's just
Uh,
like the dregs of summer, which of course you just know the entire time there's going to be a really big rainstorm at the turning point of this movie. And when it happens, you're like, ah.
it's a shame that Kurosawa never made just a straight baseball picture because the baseball sequence in this he films with the same kind of telephoto lens that he does for like the samurai sequences in Seven Samurai, where just like the human body moves so fast against the background. And like, God, I would love a whole baseball movie shot like that.
I fundamentally the baseball in this movie is fucking awful. I'm
Yeah,
talking about like the
they're
players
really
playing.
bad at
Like
it.
every time at bat, it's a hit. It's somebody making an error out in the outfield. Like the score had to be like 24 to 27 by the end of it. But it's a really great little sequence where they're like trying to track a guy who's at the baseball game. He's a baseball fan. So like we're at the game looking in the audience for him. The audience is watching what's on the field. And it's just a really cracking set piece that signifies that again, we're taking that next step up towards the next year. The next year to me, not to me, fuck me. This is when the international film world took notice of Akira Kurosawa because in
And to notice
1950
of Japan.
Yeah.
Rashomon.
Yeah,
That's the movie.
yeah.
Like I think if you were to map out the like the Kurosawas that exist, you know, I was kind of talking about if everybody in the world had Letterboxd, it's Seven Samurai. It's probably run nowadays, maybe less upon release originally, but it's like that has just done nothing but grow and grow and grow and stand the test of time. And then I think it's Rashomon. Like in terms of just those major paradigm shifting movies, this is like his most, it's not his highest movie on the Sight and Sound list, but it is like the Sight and Sound Kurosawa movie to me. It's the movie that will teach you about film history or film theory or whatever. Very notably, a movie where it's rooted on testimony, and those testimonies do not cohere with each other. And so it's about the unreliability of human memory, of human perception, but also the nature of dishonesty and sort of making excuses for oneself and telling stories about oneself. It is not the first Kurosawa jidaigeki, but it is like the Kurosawa jidaigeki. That's just a genre of Japanese historical film that we'll be talking a lot about with Throne of Blood and Ron. This shit's fucking incredible.
It's
This
so good.
this is an arrival of a master. Like, whoa, where'd that come? Like, you were good, but where did this come from? It's it's an adaptation of two separate stories by Ryunosuke Achagawa. The one of them is Rashomon, the titular Rashomon. That is the story where we get the framing device of being at the Rashomon gate, where it's very decrepit. It's set at a time of like political turmoil and upheaval, where like the city's kind of going to hell. People hide dead bodies up on the top floor of this thing, and it's just this rain-washed thing. The story is very different than how the movie ends up going, but there are some moral implications to it that I think are central to the idea of Rashomon. Like, what do we do when the rules fail us? What do we do when our moral systems don't mean or have the enforcement or strength that they used to? And what do we do when as it relates to the second story, which is called In a Grove, or sometimes it's translated In a Bamboo Grove, which is where the main meat of the story comes from, where characters in some way, shape, or form tell the story of a an attack, a rape, a murder. But no one has the same details about the attack, the rape, or the murder. And one of the things that's really interesting to me, compared to the legacy children of Rashomon, I'll just pick on Ridley Scott, for example, and his movie The Last Duel. In The Last Duel, you kind of watch the same story happen three times with minute differences. In Rashomon, that shit's like radically different every time we go to a new guy. It's like, wait, that has no connect. Like, what? It's so much more like it throws you through such a larger loop in terms of trying to figure out how to reconcile these differences and what does it mean that each character almost pins the murder on themselves because it relates to the idea of what they see as honorable or respectable. Fascinating, fascinating fucking movie. Mifune is a star. Shimura is the best to ever do it. I don't know. I don't have anything to. It's as good as movies get, really.
Yeah, watch
De
Rashomon and
Des
then watch Hoodwinked.
But
or you could just or you could just watch Rashomon. Uh, Destined for the bump list for
yeah,
me.
just
Uh, very very strong picture. Will
I didn't
almost like built for your 50th watch.
100%. 100%. The magic of it, as explained by, I believe, Robert Altman on the Criterion disc, if you ever watch that special feature, he has a really good intro on it where he talks about the idea is, and this exists in the story too, these discrepancies. In a story, in a short story or a novel, all the action takes place in your imagination. So all the idea of like this being like one cohesive fantasy thing in your mind makes sense. The discrepancies make sense because it's all thought based. In movies, when you see action on the camera, you're like, that's real. That's really happening, even though we know it's a fantasy. So this ultimately ends up kind of speaking to the illusionistic nature of movies. But you're like, this is real. This is a real account. And then you watch something that conflicts with it and it breaks your brain a little bit, but it teaches you that that's what movies are. It's all real, none of it's real. It's all one layer of reality that is like fractured and it's yeah, it just rewards those repeat things. And I think the more you get into the core of what makes it tick, it's something that brings up your appreciation of many, many, many other movies, which may or may not even really be that much like in common with it, but it just increases your overall appreciation of movies. Fucking again, bleh, so good. Next one on the list. I'm skipping a few big ones. I warned you. We're going to the majors here. 1952, Ikiru. This was a riser for me. This actually got a little half star bump. First time I ever saw Ikiru, I was like, that's a great movie. I thought it was like, people talk this one up. This is one of the more beloved letterboxedy ones. I think people like contemporary audiences really, really, really love Ikiru.
Yeah.
Um, Adaptation of a Russian novel or novella about a businessman who is stricken with a terminal illness and who has to learn to live his life like he was dying. He's got to go 2.7 seconds on the bull and all that kind of stuff. This is something that could so easily just fall into like bullshit cliche. And I think
Like
what
it's
impressed me
Mr.
so much,
Megorium's Wonder Emporium. Not a joke. That's what that movie's about. He's dying.
or they did a remake of this, right? Or
Yeah,
like a
living.
Living
readaptation,
with Bill
Living,
Nighy.
which I think was like decent enough. There's
Fine.
nothing wrong with that movie, but this, I was so impressed with the way that you don't just get to like, oh, I'm shaking it off and I'm going to be a new guy and I'm going to have a new life. It takes him the
Hmm.
duration of the damn movie to really figure it out, to really figure out what it means to live, what that title is all about. And it's very methodical and patient and just a perfect winter movie and the right point in this conversation to just say like Takashi Shimura is as good as it gets here. I
The
mean, like
the the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
this is again,
Maybe.
this is a point where you could retire once this movie's done. You have climbed every mountain, you've conquered everything. You've done all that you can possibly do. And then the motherfucker's like, I'm gonna do Godzilla and Seven Samurai next, I think.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Just
Yeah,
throwing up my
man.
hands.
Just an immense amount of pathos, but a character that like I don't know. To me, this almost seems like central to him, like the way that you just he's lovable, he has virtues, he has lessons to learn. Um, I'm almost amused by when I see a Takashi Shimura for some of these later examples where he's like a bad guy, or he's like, somehow immoral. Because to me, in this movie, he's just like I don't know. Sometimes movies can have like a boring paragon of virtue, but this guy's got these quiet virtues, and they're hard won. They're hard won fucking lessons that he's learning, and this is powerful. Also, just a gorgeous black and white movie. Lots of beautiful, wonderful, spectacular imagery, as there is in many Kurosawa movies. But it's not samurai clanging their swords here. It's Tokyo nightlife and this very particular era that it's set in, a very wintry, snowy type of imagery.
I need to watch it again. I know because I watched it and I'm about the same level on it as you, Zach. And I think every single person in our chat went, "Wait, this is a
Really?
baby ass fucking movie."
It really is.
This is the thing that you would show up and get mad at all of us for only having it 4 stars. So maybe I just need to watch it again. Maybe it'll be like Throne of Blood, and then I'll watch it a second time and be like, actually, wait, no, 5 stars.
Really, it was a wonderful rewatch. It was a good one for me to go out and do. I was a little iffy, to be honest. I wasn't necessarily hitting all these Kurosawas because it really was major ones and it was ones I'd seen before. So I got out for Stray Dog, which I've already mentioned in this sequence. But I was not like so the next one on the list is Seven Samurai. I didn't go see Seven Samurai. I've seen it on
Yeah.
35 millimeter. I love that fucking movie. I didn't find that it was playing the same day as Redbeard, which we'll talk about. Both of those are over 3 hours long. So it was
Yeah,
like
Jesus.
let me just pick my battle here. I would have gladly sat through both, but Seven Samurai, the movie, the period movie period underline bold big flashing fucking letters. Seven Samurai. You know. If you don't
If
know,
we if
fucking find out.
if we jettison all the other movies but keep one, that
It
is the one.
it's the movie.
It
After
is
that,
number it is number two on Criterion Collection's spine numbers.
indeed. What's one? The Grand Illusion?
Yes.
Mhm.
After Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, we'll get to that one. Naturally just a wonderful little progression into the jidaigeki Shakespeare. We'll get there. We'll get there. And then after that, I don't know, maybe Davey, you want to take this one because oh no, wait. No wait. I got another one because I bumped this one too, which is the Hidden Fortress, 58. So we kind of run that gamut from like super mega jidaigeki spectacular Seven Samurai into the more artful gothic horror inflected Throne of Blood into like proto Star Wars. It's the Hidden Fortress. It's like just the adventure movie. I found this to be a little bit like the first time I saw it, like good, spectacularly shot. It's his first widescreen movie, which is really notable when you watch it in theaters after watching some of the other ones. You're like, oh, okay, we're in new dimensions here. And it's like he was born to do it. It's like he didn't skip a beat in terms of being able to. Davey's gone. Oh no. And just keep everything working. Um, Lightly comedic movie, not my favorite flavor, but ultimately just too good to resist. So with Throne of Blood in the rear view, 1960, Akira Kurosawa has his second flirtation with Shakespeare, kinda with the Bad Sleep Well.
Yeah, so Bad Sleep Well is it kind of gets lumped in with Throne of Blood and Rand because it's fun to have three Kurosawa films that are adapted from Shakespeare. It's technically based on Hamlet.
Yeah,
I would say in the same way that The Lion King is kind of based on Hamlet, but like even
maybe less.
yeah, I'd say it's less so. Um, it's about Toshiro Mifune plays a young man who is getting married to the disabled daughter of this massive business conglomerate or business the head of a business conglomerate and at the wedding there is a cake that resembles some details about a horrible suicide quote unquote that happened at the company about 5 years prior. From then people are wondering, hey, does Toshiro Mifune is this kind of outsider to this company? Does he have anything to do with all this? Yes, he does. If he wasn't, then there wouldn't be a movie. There's a lot about the Bad Sleep Well that does really work. It's a bunch of people at the top of their game, just going nutty mode. The problem is these people at the top of their games have gone nutty mode time and time again so much better than this. Um, there's a reason that this one isn't in the Kurosawa retrospectives, that Criterion has kind of dragged their feet on getting this one out on Blu-ray. It's a perfectly fine film. Um, and I think I like it more than Zach at the very least. But
It, it was another commit or get off the pot kind of thing. Like
yeah,
either you're doing Hamlet or you're not doing Hamlet. It seems like you're mostly not, which is fine with me. I don't care. The parts of it that were Hamlet were not really the most compelling
it's the weakest
elements
parts, I'd say, because you're kind of
that,
trapped in this weird structure that you're not fully living
that
in.
you're not committing to, that we're not doing the themes of, that you're not getting into the weeds of like this is what this movie is about. It's more about like corporate greed and the way that that affects people's lives and there's a revenge plot. I liked there's like a ghostly element, which is obviously a little reminiscent of Hamlet and a little reminiscent of like just that period of Shakespeare in the early 1600s before the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a specific little ghostly set piece where a person that everybody thinks is dead is like appearing and he's like, "Ah, I'm being haunted by a ghost." That's a pretty cool little part. I don't know. It's a long movie. It just didn't really
It's
get a
very
lot of
long, and I do like some of the more kind of mischievous, almost like prankster elements
Mm.
to
yeah.
the bringing people back
Frank's
as
gone too
ghosts.
far.
No, I mean literally. The because I don't know if you mentioned this during the when you were talking about Throne of Blood briefly while my computer was having a spasm, but when I watch Throne of Blood, I get excited to think about Macbeth. When I watch Ran, I get excited to think about King Lear. When I watch The Bad Sleep Well, I go, oh yeah, that is kind of Hamlet. Is like there's
Yeah,
no connective tissue. I
right.
don't feel like I'm drawing a grand line between the masters in the way that I am with some of these other movies.
For sure. I think part of that's definitely in losing the historical element for sure. Although,
Yeah,
it's not a movie about kings. I mean, there is a king in Hamlet.
yeah.
That happens, but it's not as much of what it's about. Cole, I know you're pretty mild on this, but
Yeah,
it
it's
was a
it's
while since you last saw it.
fine.
What's better than fine is the two that he wound up following this up with, at least on this list of the major stuff, which is in 61 and 62. We can kind of talk about these as a pair because they're kind of a pair of movies, although different in some ways. And that's Yojimbo and Sanjuro, both starring Toshiro Mifune in like this is his most iconic role, I think. If you wanted to say it was Seven Samurai or Rashomon, I'd go with you because of the popularity of those movies overall. But like this is the Mofune type, is guy laying on the ground propped up, like talking shit about people and then beating the shit out of people.
I think people misremember Rashomon and Seven Samurai. I feel like people misremember those characters as being more similar to Yojimbo.
Sure. There's
Mm.
certainly like an inordinate amount of confidence with those characters, but there is an entirely new level of like cinematic badass hero guy that comes out of this. Um, and yeah, thrown into the middle. This is another like light adaptation. This one's not even like as talked about, but I would say that Yojimbo is so strikingly similar to Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest that it basically is Red Harvest. It's simplified, but there is a nameless, it's in this case a Ronin samurai, in that case a detective, who goes to this town. It's like a crooked place where you've got multiple mob bosses that kind of have the whole town by the neck, and they're having a little bit of infighting, but ultimately it's a fairly stable ecosystem. And what he does to solve the problem is make it worse. He
Yeah.
makes the fighting worse. He causes it to escalate so that one party gets rid of the other, and then he can more directly focus his efforts on like the final boss, whoever's the strongest person. The other super, I mean, obviously there's a lot to talk about with Yojimbo in terms of the influence, but the other super important thing to me is the Tatsuya Nakadai of it all. Nakadai is in Seven Samurai, but again, this is where Nakadai arrives as like the counter punch to the Mifune punch. And that is going to be really important after 1965 for reasons that we will talk about in a
Yeah.
minute. But he's just like ultimate skeevy bastard mode in these movies, or in this, no, in both movies, kind of. Although it's a little different in Sanjuro. In Sanjuro, he's more like regal and professional. He's much more, straight-laced in some ways, but still an absolute bastard. And like an upper level threat in both movies where you're like, oh, this guy's scary. This guy's gonna fuck you up. Great stuff. Ending of Sanjuro, A plus.
Ending of San because I saw Sanjuro in the theater, but not Yojimbo because I saw them both a year or two ago. And so I saw Sanjuro with a friend of mine because I got like a 5 pack of tickets for the Kurosawa series and I had one burning a hole in my pocket. You always forget how much blood there is at the end of Sanjuro, and there's always more blood than you remember.
Yeah,
I'm
indeed.
interested.
Um, Also, I would say this about Sanjuro. Yojimbo holds up better as the more like steady classic of cinema.
Yeah.
Sanjuro's 90 minutes long. It's a little bit like trashier. It is actually adapted from a novel.
It's
Can't remember the
funnier.
name of it. Although it is the same author as Redbeard, as the
Oh
novel
shit.
basis of Redbeard. Um, the thing with this one is there's like a group of 10, 11 guys plus Mifune rocking around, and he just uses that as an excuse to block it exquisitely the
Mhm.
entire time in a way that is almost annoying. Where you're like, okay, yeah, here's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. To me, that was almost the most interesting part of rewatching it, more than the story was just like, how is he going to line all these guys up in every shot?
Mm.
Those two are a lot of fun. I know Morgan, you just recently did Yojimbo for the first time, which we talked about a bit.
Hmm.
And you also recently did Fistful of Dollars, which is also Yojimbo.
Indeed.
The next one on the list,
Good
I think, is one
pictures.
that I don't know, Cole, if you did this one. I know Morgan rewatched it. I know I rewatched it. But that would be 1963, High and Low,
Yeah,
which we've talked
Mad,
about a fair
mad,
amount.
mad Dece.
Yeah. I'll,
pretty
I'll,
good.
I'll
Pretty
just
good.
jump in the middle and say that for me, in contrast to Morgan, my favorite part of this is when we get into that room and everybody's giving their reports. All the different little crime groups are like, and then here's where the phone booth was, and they're like, the son would be coming over here, so it wouldn't really make sense for him to be in this phone booth, so he's probably in this one. And it's that collection of data, pop, 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 up until we get a profile, and then the profile's like, okay, now we've got this, that, 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 that. So fucking satisfying. That's so
It's like,
nerdy, but like, God, it's so good.
oh, it's like the most process part of a procedural ever.
Yeah,
Michael Mann is taking notes.
for sure.
Best
Yeah.
Kurosawa.
I have it in third, not for lack of trying.
I think I think I have Seven Samurai, then High and Low, and then Ron, and they're like 69, 70, and 71 on my top 100.
Mm.
They're
So
all like the best
it's
shit ever made. So, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
best to do it.
Seven Samurai to me has a little bit more of just like an all-encompassing scope. I can point to other movies that High and Low, it's like, again, M. It's very fucking similar to Fritz Lang's M. It is like a sequel to M in many, many ways. It's better, but not that much better. Whereas Seven Samurai, I look at it, and obviously there's other samurai movies. We're going to talk about two of them today, but there is not another damn movie in this world quite like that one to me. But we digress. That this, comparing cuts of Wagyu beef, as I believe Cole once put it.
Mhm.
After 1963 is a movie I saw for the first time, a movie that Davey saw for the first time. And I slapped a 5 star on this bitch immediately, and that is Redbeard. This is the last collaboration between Toshiro Mifune and Akira Kurosawa. Because after having fucking arrows shot at him during Throne of Blood and saying, yeah, that's fine, we'll just keep doing this, having a beard for 2 years was like, I'm drawing the line, Akira. You have gone too far, and
I'm done
this is
with
the
your
end of
ass.
our relationship.
Oh no, you made me too sexy. Let's burn down 20 years of friendship. That's how you sound, Toshiro. Fucking idiot.
That's what you sound
This
like.
The actor here who plays the younger doctor that goes to work in Redbeard's clinic as the premise of the movie is also the kind of like leader of the pack in Sanjuro. So it's
Mhm.
kind of interesting to see Redbeard for the first time and go back to Sanjuro and be like, oh yeah, that's that guy. I couldn't tell you his name. He obviously did good performances in both
Right.
movies. Not don't want to be he didn't leave an impression. It's just didn't leave enough of like, oh yeah, he's this person from this and this person from this. Although I've probably seen him in other things. Um, this shit's spectacular. I said it on the last time I brought it up because I brought it up as a 5 star. It's like it's phenomenal. The biggest issue is that it's not a 9 hour movie, and you just keep going with new plots and storylines in this sort of medieval medical area. It's such a humanistic and compassionate story. There's a shot into a well that broke my brain so thoroughly that I out loud in a theater went, "How the fuck did they do that?" And I was like, "Oh shit." I said that out loud. I didn't say that in my head. I said it aloud. So yeah, this one kind of got the better of me. It's a
It's like
very
a
like
mirror shot and decision to leave, where you're just like, I give up.
the sunglasses in High and Low are like that too,
Yes.
near the end when he's peeking up over the flowers. It's like, how did that? How did that?
Watching
I
that.
mean, that's what I said when they started playing Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol in the movie. I was like, how did they get that 40 years in advance?
In Redbeard? Is that just a Grey's Anatomy joke?
The movie is literally like proto Grey's Anatomy.
It
It's
is, and like Grey's Anatomy, it's very fucking watchable.
it's like ER, The Pit maybe, where it's a medical drama. It's about like the life and times of these doctors, and
You
it
really,
specifically follows a younger doctor who wants to be the surgeon for the shogun. He wants to be like, hoity-toity, upper class, powerful, and then is put into this place with this doctor who is unforgiving, unrelenting, and treats peasants, and there's no glory in it. And over time, of course, he finds his own compassion and desire to do the job for the fucking reason that you do that job. And there's just something, oh, it just gets me.
you
It's
gotta, you gotta really be not good at what you're doing for me to get off board with medical drama,
Totally.
in my experience.
I find that to be especially true when we're like grinding up powders in huge mortars and
Hey, you're
pestles and
doing
everything's like
fucking
real.
alchemy.
yeah,
There's like death scenes on tatami mats. There's so many like it's very novelistic. It is adapted from a novel. It's almost episodic in nature, where you've got like this case, and as this guy is dying, he tells us his life story, and we go back into his past, and it's very ambitious, and it just moves like a fucking machine. I love this. This is awesome movie.
yeah. I think the if there is a thing that I bumped up against watching because I have it at 4.5 stars, a very
Whoa.
respectable thing. Yeah, uh, is just because it is so novelistic. It took a really long time for me to kind of try to pinpoint the overall thesis aside from the kind of basic just take care of all people no matter how much money they have, you fucking ghouls, which is kind of the
Right.
main one. But
Uh-huh.
A theme that endures to the present day.
very true, and it's very relevant. But I don't think it's until kind of the last episode and the case that they're dealing with that it all kind of clicks
Yeah.
for me, and I start to like really like well up watching it. Um,
The thing with the girl, so there were more things than this that got me on board. I was pretty on board from the beginning. But where they take the girl from the brothel, and first of all, he just like, you're watching this Mifune movie, and I knew, I was sitting down, 3 hours long. I don't quite know what it's about, but I know that it's not like a samurai movie, right?
yeah,
I know that I'm about to watch a 3 hour drama, and Mifune's not going to pull a sword out, and he doesn't, but he does the next best thing.
it's fucking Arkham Asylum combat of like 12 guys at once.
It's fucking hard. And then that whole thing, and there's the girl, and she's tending to the doctor when he gets sick. It's
That is
uh,
really lovely.
really just good stuff.
Yeah.
The next one that I've got on my list jumps ahead into the future, into Kurosawa's more uncertain and shakier 70s. After just being a dominant cinematic force from Rashomon, I mean, probably from before Rashomon in terms of commercial success in Japan, but from Rashomon through Redbeard, that is the man, right? That is the period. And then we get into the 70s and things get shakier.
Those
We move into
Cadet is a
color.
massive bomb.
Massive bomb. I still haven't seen it. I have friends who swear by it though, but I still have not seen that one myself.
Which one
That's
was it?
Those Cadet,
Hmm.
Dosukaden. It's like a musical, right? Or it has musical elements to it.
I believe so, if I
It has
remember.
some music elements to it, perhaps is the best way to say it.
Yeah,
Why
Uh,
didn't anyone tell me
I
this?
mean, I mean, that movie went so badly that he literally tried to commit suicide after it was such a failure.
Tough beat.
Hey, if you got to be good at if you can only be good at making movies or killing yourself, I'm glad he was good at making movies.
and then we move into a movie that Davey got to see in theaters, I believe, on
Yes.
the 35 millimeter,
I
which I haven't
did.
seen, so you'll have to carry us on this one.
So this movie is Derzu Uzala. It is the only movie that Kurosawa made outside of Japan. It was made in the USSR. It's a film in Russian, um, and it is a survival adventure drama set in the 1900s, the decade, as opposed to the century. And it's a couple different moments of intersection between someone trying to settle the frontier of the Russian wilderness and a mountain man who lives there and helps guide these colonizers. Seems kind of cruel because it is genuinely the wilderness they're going through, but just kind of helping out these explorers and then fading away into nothingness, going, all right, bye, I'm going to go forage some more. And then the kind of continued intersectioning of their paths. Gorgeous, gorgeous movie.
So pretty.
The color cinematography on this thing is amazing, and getting to see it on the scratchy 35 millimeter print is like seeing God. Um, it's a very it's you can tell that it's the work of someone who is a master that is trying to find himself again, quite frankly. Um, and if there's a flaw in the movie, it's that it's not as exacting or as precise
Mhm.
as the stuff that would come before or the stuff that would come after. And in that way, I think people that
For
have
a less skilled filmmaker, that's probably a more interesting prospect. Getting more
yes,
inward, getting more like if you're like a three-star movie guy and you get more inward, you're probably going to find more true and interesting things. If you're the guy that made Seven Samurai, it's like, well, you can be exploratory and the greatest of all time.
yeah, it's like you should just stick with whatever you're doing because whatever you're doing is the best to ever do it. I think, and
But I
I,
think at that same time, obviously, different country, different studio doesn't have that power anymore. Seven Samurai is a movie where the studio's pissed. He's over budget. He's over time. We have all these people. We have all these horses, all these difficulties. And they're like, I don't really give a shit.
yeah,
They're going to do what I want to do because I fucking made Rashomon deal with it. And they did. They dealt with it and they got Seven Samurai out of it. But by the 70s, he does not have that clout.
no, and it's part of a long string of having to find weird roundabout ways to get financing for his movies that would
Mhm.
basically go until the end. This
Yeah.
is the second time that he won Best Foreign Language Film, I believe, uh,
Yes.
which is very funny. That is Rashomon and the Russian one. Um, but yeah, Cole, you're the only one here who's seen this,
Yeah,
right?
I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's not his best by any means, but I do think it's a very wonderful picture.
Go check it. It's a Kurosawa movie. They're pretty good, as you can
Right.
tell.
As we've broken into the color Kurosawa era, there are three more to talk about. One of which is Ron, right in the middle,
Mhm.
which will be the main topic. So we'll save that a little bit. But I stop here just to make a point that these next three are like, who let this man into the fucking Crayola box? Like, what the hell? Because the next one on the list, famously contributed, produced in part by George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. This would have been in
Mhm.
1980 after The Godfather, after Star Wars. So these guys are like on top. And imagine being George Lucas, and then you get to go use your Star Wars money and be like, I'm gonna let my hero make a movie. And then that movie is Kagemusha, the Shadow Warrior, starring Tatsuya Nakadai as a samurai warlord and his Kagemusha, a guy who is his entire role is to imitate the Lord so that he can go into battle without necessarily putting himself in danger, but still lead the troops, still give a people the sense that he's really there. Also, in this particular movie, very early on, something happens to the real guy, and he is then replaced de facto for years by this guy who was a wanted criminal. He was going to hang, and then the brother of the Lord is like, you know, maybe we shouldn't kill this guy. And it's a fascinating story of kind of swapped identities and all this other stuff. But all you're ever going to remember about this movie is the fucking colors.
And
Yeah,
then he made it as Dave.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just Dave, but serious.
Good movie. I don't know why. I rewatched this on the Criterion DVD. I checked it out from the library. I watched this years and years ago and it was like fine. It was like my lone maybe Kurosawa negative rating where I was just like, I don't really get this. I don't really get what makes this special. I certainly was on its wavelength this time for all 3 hours of the duration where I was just like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
digging this, but never do I feel like in all of its colorful splendor, it gets to the level of the next two movies that we'll talk about, which are Dreams and Ron.
I think it's a very good movie. I think the biggest problem is that it's so clearly a dry run for Ron.
And it doesn't have the same I mean there's like an imposter syndrome. What's this guy gonna do? But I just kind of find it slow moving and it doesn't have the same like dramatic and thematic heft. And it's not as experimental and fucking weird and funny and goofy as Dreams can be. It doesn't have those same blissful types of
Yeah.
odds and ends to it.
I love this thing.
Yeah, it's
It's
gorgeous.
it's so damn good. It's not as good as Ron, but
There's
I
one
prefer this
shot.
to Dreams by a lot, actually.
We'll talk about that. That is fair, but we'll talk
Listen,
about that.
a lot of people like this movie. It won the Palme d'Or in a
Yeah,
time, all that jazz.
It has this one particular shot of like the sunbeams as the samurai are like kind of like marching on their horses. This shit's fucking gorgeous. I mean, there's undeniably a formal achievement. I think as we just went through a really long list of movies, it's like they're all like that though.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean that any of them are bad or that they couldn't all be masterpieces in your mind. It just, yeah, of
yeah.
course. Why wouldn't he?
Oh, for
And
sure.
then yeah, I don't know. Just not as compelling. I wish I had more of a concrete like this is it. I really like the opening sequence, which is just this really long-held composition of the brother, the Lord, and this criminal that they've saved that's going to do the imitation, where that's just kind of like you're just like, "Ooh, we are really sitting here with this for a long time," and that almost to me works better than a lot of the like larger dynamic stuff, which maybe that just speaks to my taste, but this kind of where I'm at. Ron throws that
We're
shit out the window. Biggest movie, whatever. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But then the last one on our sequence before we are really into the main conversation is Dreams, an no, not an anthological effort of different segments, all of which represent a dream. There are these intertitles where it's like, I had a dream that, dot, dot, dot. David, did you see this one in theaters or did you just catch up with it?
I just caught up with it. I got the 4K Criterion for Christmas from one of my roommates, and I never gotten around to it. And I said, why not?
Yeah.
So I popped it on one night, and it's good.
I
It's
have a
gorgeous.
known allergy for anthologies. Like I usually
Yeah,
like them, but sometimes it's hard when you're going segment, especially the first time you ever watch one. It's
yeah,
like, what is this? Okay, cool. All right, we're starting over with new guys. All right, we're starting over, and then this. How does this all fit together? I kind of like that one, and they're almost just harder for my brain to digest. This, I think, falls pretty neatly into a format laid down by Qui-Gon and other movies. But this is like Kurosawa's Kaidan movie, which we'll talk a little bit more about with Throne of Blood, where it's these like folk stories,
Mm.
and it's a lot about like nature and spirits and the kind of irreconcilability of human nature and how destructive we are, and then nature, which provides us everything that we have, and the ways that it will destroy us and the ways that we'll destroy it. One detail that really stuck out to me seeing this in theaters, and you'll know the segment right away when I say this. Ishiro Honda, the director of Godzilla, assistant directed this and assistant directed Ron. It's noticeable in both movies. It is like, oh, yeah, that is the Godzilla director doing these special effects. You're right. Where it's like the nuclear fucking holocaust is happening. And you're like, yeah, this is 1990 version of the Godzilla guy doing Godzilla stuff with Akira Kurosawa. That makes sense. So there's a gamut of like natural beauty to like horrific destruction, death, life. I love this. This is a really cool, fun movie. I love the entire final sequence, which has Chishu Ryu, the Ozu stalwart, as a much older, I'm just 1990, he's a much older man. You got Martin Scorsese in there as Van Gogh for a brief period of time.
Marty does live to make a cameo.
I've had this on Criterion for years now. have not taken the plunge, but I got it out of I got it out of my Rubbermaid bins that all my movies are in, and it's upstairs waiting for me. So
Very good.
looking forward to that.
Anything in particular, Davey, that was kind of like for you, or just
No, I mean, again, that's a problem with talking about a bunch of Kurosawa movies in quick succession. Is
yeah,
like, what is there to say? I kind of the thing you're saying with anthology films is that there is just naturally going to be kind of that wave of quality because you're seeing it as like small individual pieces rather than parts of a greater whole. Obviously, with the title of this one and kind of the central conceit of these are all dreams, you can take them as pieces of a bigger thing a little easier. And I put this in my review. Just it's fundamentally annoying listening to a person tell me their dreams. Akira Kurosawa just happens to be really good at making gorgeous images and trying to make them all feel of a grander purpose. But it's fucking annoying listening to a person tell me their dreams.
Counterpoint, the diner scene in Heat is the greatest scene in cinema.
there you go.
Yeah.
Boom. Roasted.
Unless you're David Krumholtz and you hate it. I don't know.
David Krumholtz has said a lot
Who
of
the
things on a
f
lot of podcasts that I don't agree with,
who the
specifically about
f
John Landis. So
who the fuck is asking that man anything? Who the fuck? Shut up. Who the hell are you? Get yo 10 things I hate about you ass out of never fucking speak on the microphone again. Oh, I don't like the diner scene in Heat. Why don't you? I'm an adult. I don't
Thank
need
you,
movies
Ken
this.
Claus, for David Krumholtz.
movies can have dream sequences, but it's when and it's the thing with the Kurosawa autobiography as well. It's I think he's not the best at looking at himself. And I think there's a when it gets that level of rawness, I think he gets a little uncomfortable. And I think that comes through in dreams in weird and exciting and fun to talk about ways that just don't totally gel with me. It's
Yeah.
kind of similar to what we were talking about with Uzawa. Like it's a master going out of his regular master mode.
Not a wire to wire classic for me, nor is it my favorite of the color films. That's Ron. But to me, it's like my favorite use of color in his career. There's just specific moments where there's a point where you're in a house and a door gets open and there's like bamboo fields. I shared it in our Discord chat right after seeing the movie. And it's like this like green and the light kind of comes down inside and it shines outside and you're pulled into nature. There's just a lot of like celebratory and cultural elements. This begins with like a march, which is these foxes and it's on their wedding day and it's like a whole fantasy thing. And then at the end, it's a village celebrating a funeral, and they are just like in a theater, particularly. That scene is just so like brash and loud and celebratory and kind of otherworldly in a way. Not a lot of movies. Quite On is the closest I can think to it. That's got much more of a clear, creepy, cold horror, supernatural bent than this has. But this is Akira Kurosawa embracing that sort of, Ugetsu Monogatari kind of classical Japanese folktale storytelling outside of maybe something like I almost said Macbeth, but Throne of Blood, which we'll talk about a little bit. Maybe that's the segue. So,
Anybody got any words about Rhapsody in August?
Richard Gere. I watched it in 2023 because it is a post-nuclear kind of
Mhm.
messaging thing, and I was watching a lot of things around that, like Oppenheimer release. I was watching post-war stuff, kind of like what David was saying. We did a podcast about it. You can listen to it. It was fine. I didn't dislike it.
I just need everyone to know that Akira Kurosawa made a film with post Pretty Woman Richard Gere.
He did, and it's like a good movie. It's
I like that the only two American actors who have ever worked with Akira Kurosawa are Martin Scorsese and Richard Gere.
Richard Gere.
Two
two
people that I think
goats.
have never worked together.
Not that
There's
I'm
Nope.
aware
still
of.
time.
That's true. Get him in the Jesus movie.
So we are here in theory to have a little bit of a debate, but I don't think there's that much of a debate. I think I lose the debate if there is a debate. It's 1-on-3, but that's okay. I'll fight you guys 1-on-3. There are two pillars in Kurosawa's adaptational career. Rashomon, as I mentioned, is an adaptation of two stories. Redbeard, that's an adaptation of a novel. So there's other candidates here. High and Low, as we've mentioned, that's an adaptation. Although I don't think anybody's watching that movie and going, "This is excellent," because it's such a gripping take on the material. It's
Mhm.
because of his filmmaking prowess. There is something really special and apt to me about Kurosawa taking on the Bard and having these be two of his most major films, his most talked about, significant, using that signature jidaigeki samurai type of movie to adapt one of the great artists of all Western culture and Western literature, but particularly in the English language. And it speaks, I think, when you're watching these movies, I mean, obviously you can just sort of watch them for what they are, but they fall into a concept of adaptations of Shakespeare. Shakespeare, playwright, late 16th century through the early 17th century. You might have heard of him in Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Titus Andronicus, The Tempest, others.
Shakespeare in Love.
Ugh.
Gwyneth Paltrow, things of that nature. The
For more
Hamnet's upcoming,
information,
Chloe Zhao.
fuck.
Um,
For more information, see Chloe Zhao's Hamnet out this year.
I think one of the things that you really learn when you study Shakespeare, which you will do as any American or presumably English or people who are closer, like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, like to that British culture, you're gonna study Romeo and Juliet. You're probably gonna study Julius Caesar. You'll hit Hamlet at some point, especially if you do like upper levels of English, Brit Lit, and in college.
And you'll get one comedy usually.
Yeah.
As You Like
They'll,
It,
they'll, they'll try to fit
Taming of the
Midsummer in there.
Shrew, Midsummer
You know,
Night's Dream, or
maybe
The
Much Ado
Tempest.
About Nothing if someone wants to be cool.
Comedy of Errors,
Yeah,
perhaps.
Romeo and Juliet is funny sometimes.
Yeah,
it's
they're
pretty
all a
funny.
little funny. They're all a little funny. Um, and then Davey, your circuit of the world, you might come across it in the theater world. You know, not as common. Obviously, there is a performance element to all these things. There are certainly Shakespeare performance things. I didn't really encounter it as much when we did theater because it was a lot more musical theater than this type of stuff. But the, the reason to bring that up is because it's not just literature. Unlike, say, Shakespeare's sonnets, which are poetry and stand alone as a work, right, on the page, these plays are not something that exactly fully are done just because they're published and you read them and you've got the poetry. They are very, very strong on that level, but they are ultimately designed to be staged and performed as a Shakespeare contemporary whose name I'm obviously didn't remember because why would I prepare that well? His writing is not just for this age, but for all time.
Yeah.
And so how people stage Shakespeare matters a lot in terms of how we understand the material. In the cinematic world, that means Richard III is a Nazi. It also means Romeo and Juliet with Prince When Doves Cry being sung by a choir of children in the Baz Luhrmann picture. It means the Coen brothers taking things fairly direct, or Orson Welles taking things fairly direct, but pitching them in a particularly Dreyer-esque visual way. And right here in the middle, maybe our greatest adapter of Shakespeare is Akira Kurosawa, a man who was completely unafraid to take the material, uproot it from its place in Scotland in Macbeth or in England for King Lear and transplants it not just to Japan, but to historical Japan in this jidaigeki genre, and also bringing in the elements of no theater so that we are comparing one type of performance theater to a completely different style with different storytelling methods, different themes, different tones, and making that all work fucking beautifully. Akira Kurosawa to me is such a great parallel to Shakespeare, where he's like, enormous list of works, many of them major, some of them more minor, but people will swear by them up and down. An incredible entertainer, but an immaculate craftsman and an artisan that is unparalleled. Just has it all. Will be part of our cinematic grammar until the end of time,
Yeah.
while being a populist, entertaining as hell filmmaker. And so to me, right off the bat, it's just like he made the best Macbeth movie ever made. Hooray!
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a solid argument for Kurosawa being the Shakespeare of cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in no small part due to looking back at these stories that became foundational to storytelling and then creating works out of them that proved foundational to cinema, like Throne of Blood. In preparation for this podcast, this was the first time I'd seen Throne of Blood all the way through. I had started it before and then got sleepy, as I often do. But this time, getting all the way through it, and it's just like I am. This is an episode where I'm more than happy to take a back seat because what the hell do I have to say about Kurosawa's own Throne of Blood? It's pretty good. It's like the most visually frightening non-horror movie I've ever seen in my life. It is like picking like what's Denzel's best performance. It's like picking
Right,
which
right.
which Mifune performance is the best, but I think it might be this one.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
good argument for it. It's not him at his most subtle, but it's theatrical. It fits the material, it fits the
Yeah.
approach.
Mhm.
The thing that I came away thinking, especially, so I didn't get heavy into this when we saw Hidden Fortress. Hidden Fortress has these two comedic characters, R2D2, C3PO, you might be familiar with them. And they're these peasants and they're always trying to kind of like do rascally shit and get away with stuff and betray everybody. And then Toshiro Mifune is like crossing his arms, he's like, fuck you guys. And they whips him into shape. Every moment that Toshiro Mifune is not in the Hidden Fortress immediately tanks it. And
Yeah.
every time he comes back, you're like, holy shit, he's the man. Throne of Blood is the Kurosawa movie that has the most Mifune per capita.
And
Mm.
it's like all but like two scenes,
Pretty sure
if
he's in
even.
just damn near every scene of the movie. Pretty
Yeah,
close.
I
Maybe
like
something
yeah.
he's not in, but he's damn near the entire way. And
Figure
that
there
is
might
a
be like
really smart choice.
a couple frames where it's Lady Macbeth and her
Right,
guards. Like even
right,
just breaking it down to that level.
right.
Yeah. And he's such a presence. And to what you were saying a little bit earlier, Zach, about how it's not his most subtle performance. Yeah, but like for as good as something like Redbeard is, there are people who can do that
Yeah,
as good as he does. I don't know if there's fucking anyone who can do the shit he does in Throne of Blood
yes,
as good,
I would
as
agree.
pitched to the correct tenor.
For sure.
Because
It's
he is so big.
it's so like the perfect masculine impotence of Macbeth specifically.
Yeah,
Like
kind of a little
this
weenie.
he is this warlord, larger than life, conqueror of battlefields, who is wrapped completely around the finger of his wife.
Yeah. Who's and she like doesn't even have to try that hard,
No,
which is the best thing about it.
she's like,
The
I don't know, maybe you should kill him. Maybe
She's
He's like,
like,
oh,
fucking
oh,
all right, whatever.
yeah, okay.
he's like, damn, you cooking, lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's
so
do it.
I reread Macbeth in advance. This is the Oxford edition of these. If you're ever looking for good Shakespeare shit, the Oxford edition's phenomenal. There are many, many good editions out there, but these are annotated really well. They will give you a lot of great context. They will break down weird language and aphorisms and allusions and things like that. Read this just before seeing it. Read this in like one fucking night. It's the shortest of the Shakespeare tragedies, which I think has a big impact on why I like this movie so much. It's simplistic. It's a movie that does not really have too many side plots. We move away from Macbeth sometimes in the play to see like what is Malcolm doing, and he's meeting with Macduff, and they're like planning their attack to come get this guy. But by and large, it really follows one stream, and it's a fairly like compact, simplistic story, which Kurosawa simplifies even a little more. Not much, but he's pretty faithful, and I think that that is something that really just works. It just for me kind of comes across like a gem of a movie. One other author I would maybe compare it to is Poe, where it's like a short story where it's very neat, it's very orderly, and these people are more or less completely undone by their guilt, by their paranoia. It's got like a deep, dank, gothic feel with the really, really high contrast black and white cinematography that just makes it feel like very creepy and unnerving,
It's a
which I think
very ethereal looking film.
that's a shroud, fog, rain. There's a lot of rain in every Kurosawa movie, but it rarely feels as ominous
Branches,
and portentous as it does here.
so many
The
branches.
Yeah, this like really gnarled. There's a lot of lines of dialogue about how the forest outside the main castle is like a natural labyrinth where people get lost in it, and that's ultimately very symbolic of the ladder of ambition and how tangled and nasty and untrustworthy it all really is. I was gonna bring up Isuzu Yamada. I had to look up her name. She's also in Yojimbo, if you recall, one of the two crime families. She's like the matron of one of those two, and she's incredible here as Lady Not Macbeth, I think. This movie gives even more for that character to do in the sense of there's one specific point when he is making the choice to kill in this movie. It's Miki. In the play, it's Banquo and his son because the witches, the apparition who tells him the fortune basically says like you're gonna be the king, and then all your kids are gonna be kings after that. So he puts two and two together. In the play, this is sort of like Macbeth having that moment of like I did not commit this atrocity at the center of this play for the sake of somebody else's fucking kids. Fuck that. I'm
Hmm.
taking matters into my own hands. In this version, he is like at first going to just let them have the succession line kill it. Yes, we're just embracing our fate. And then she pushes him again with that logic. So there's these subtle little differences that I think make the story probably a little bit more rooted in the culture, the Japanese culture, where the film is taking place and being made and released. That is like just a little different, just a little bit different in flavor of a moral lesson and structure to the whole thing. And I like that contrast. I don't think one's necessarily better or worse in Macbeth, it feels like everything has one moment and then it kind of tumbles into gravity. Here, it feels like there are these different checkpoints. Like you could stop it all right here. No? Okay. We can stop it all right here. No? Okay.
And I do think it's a different flavor of tragedy. I mean, that's why Macbeth is so interesting as a play, is because it is really just you fuck up once and you're just kind of done for forever.
Hmm.
Uh, I like the different take of it where you have the stops to get off.
Hmm.
In a way kind of closer to some of the other Shakespeare tragedies. I mean, you have your Romeo and Juliet's, you have your even something like Hamlet, where there are a lot of periods where you can just go, actually, I'm not gonna kill my girlfriend's dad, or I'm not gonna drink
Right.
this poison. And it's horrible to say like, oh, one version like Macbeth versus Throne of Blood, one is better, but I think they're both just properly attuned to what they're
Hmm.
doing. And even a really great, more faithful Macbeth adaptation, like the Joel Cohen version, I think does suffer a little bit because it feels just like kind of a straight shot into hell.
Yeah.
Um, Again, very good movie, but not as good as Throne of Blood, one of the best movies by one of the best people.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to almost like put my finger on exactly what the changes are. I think part of it really is just looking at it through this lens of a staging that is more imaginative, that's taking more risks, that's making more changes, not just to the material, but like to the locale. Just for instance, we move from having three weird sisters as these witches that work under like Hecate as like their master, who are doing all this stuff, to it's like this lone crone who's like a forest spirit. She's more directly connected to the forest and she's more of a yokai. She's like spinning the loom of fucking fate or whatever. And we just
I fought that bitch as a boss in Neo too.
I really like her cameo appearance in the movie Millennium Actress by Satoshi Kon.
God, it cooks.
He's borrowing quite heavily from both Throne and Rond in that movie, which it's a great effect in both cases. Um, to me, this is like it's the best Shakespeare adaptation that I think we have, and I'll keep my powder dry because I have more of a point to make on that vis-a-vis Ron and King Lear. But there's just something in the overall simplicity where we can kind of go a little bit more edgeless. We're cutting out, for instance, like Macduff, and we're not doing that very Tolkien pilfered no man of woman born thing, and instead we're sticking a little bit more to the forest. And instead of having a rival, it's more like all of my people turned against me into that final great set piece. Just that whole thing lights my fire, right? When
Yeah.
he's looking out the window and you just see like all the tree branches fucking going in the fog.
It's so
Incredible
good.
stuff.
Beautiful stuff.
Just
Still
all
not
those
a good
fucking
wrong though.
yeah.
I mean,
We
it's
want to
not.
just
It's the second best Shakespeare adaptation, and that's again nothing to shake a stick
That's
at.
a high honor.
Yeah.
I'll challenge that one to the death. I definitely like Throne of Blood more than I like Ron. To me, I think they actually have a similar bug, if anything, and I seeing them in theaters has this where I know this story, I know where this thing is going, and there's just one or two moments in each movie where I'm like, we could move a little. Like we know, I know, you know, we know. In in Throne of Blood, I think some of those moments are a little bit more potently about guilt. They're more potently in those, we're in the blood-stained chamber. We're the last, lord who rebelled against the highest lord in this area, like committed suicide. And there's like just this dank sense of atmosphere that pervades even the slowest moments, where Ron I find to be a little bit more decorative. I don't find it to be as like oppressive or moody. And it's not trying to be, nor is King Lear trying to be. But we can talk about that a little bit more in that movie. But it doesn't have that same punch, in my opinion, and that's partially because it's more complex. Ron, I mean, and King Lear are more complex,
Mhm.
and we're trading some focus, some form, and some atmosphere for scale and vivid, but not as emotionally something, at least for me. But I'm willing to hear you out on your counter arguments on that piece of things.
Yeah,
I'll just say, and then we can get into a wider discussion, that I watched both of these movies pretty close together, and the thing that really did for me in getting Ron over the finish line, and with Throne of Blood coming in second compared to it, is that they're similarly spectacular movies doing almost like completely the opposite directions in terms of adapting these plays. And naturally, like Macbeth is more suited to what Throne of Blood is doing than and Ron is more well suited to King Lear in that direction. But they are quite, you know, disparate, I guess, in that sense. They're both very clearly Kurosawa films, but they're, I mean, if you just want to break it down to its bare bones, one is in color, the most vivid color in live action, maybe, and one is the most black and white picture ever made.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, but what breaks it down for me is the burning of the castle sequence.
Yeah.
Is that where I'm just fully like sold
Mhm.
on this film, where it all goes silent. You don't even hear ambient diegetic noise,
Right. It
except
just
for the
replaces with
score,
music. Yeah.
score flowing over it. And because this is what I do, I went to make a list. I haven't made the list in full yet, but that sequence ended up being my 12th or 13th favorite movie sequence scene ever. It's just unspeakably like no one ever did it better than this in this moment.
I think that the burning of the castle in Iran is the best scene in movies. Full stop, flat out. Nothing ever topped it. We haven't been topped it since. We should probably just put down our cameras and go home after that. Because, like, what on earth could beat it?
Oh,
It's such an inspired decision to cut out the diegetic sound. Because it doesn't start that way. It sort of
No.
fades
Mhm.
as because that is when the Lear figure's character's madness
yeah.
completely enfolds on him.
Yeah.
And
To compare in the play, it's the beginning of Act 3 when he's been kicked out of both daughters' homes, first daughter and the second daughter, and he's out on the heath in the storm. It's a big fucking storm, and he is just railing at the thunder gods. He's literally yelling at Jupiter, going out of his mind. And this is the equivalent version of that. What you have is the two elder sons who have both kicked him out are basically trying to kill his entourage. In his whole stipulation, in his succession plan, he is giving the authority over to his three sons until his youngest son Saburo is like, bucks himself out of inheritance. So he
Yeah.
gives it to the first two under the provision that he remains in title the Great Lord and he gets to keep a retinue. He's disrespected, thrown out of one place, thrown out of another place, and they realize because his retinue is, of course, like these warriors, they have to do something about this. If they really want to take power away from their father, they've got to
Mhm.
get away his guys. So this is where the two elder brothers kind of tag team while dad's in the third castle with his warriors. And it is just, it's a slaughter. I'll briefly also mention Toro Takemitsu, who is the composer of this film. He's also the composer of Kwaidan. It is
Mhm.
not one of Kurosawa's usual composers, but I think a really inspired pick here because
Yeah.
it's not like the jubilant, triumphant. It is all dour, cold. He also, I believe, did Harakiri. I can double check that. Definitely did Kagamusha as well. Um, anyway, but just dour, cold, eerie,
It
deflated.
it reminds me of parts of like Wagner's Tristan and Isolde in places where it's just like unbelievably, overwhelmingly, powerfully sad.
It's
Like,
opera. It's
yeah.
very operatic, especially as you watch the utter despair sink in on Hitora's face. Of course, played by Tetsuya Nakadai in one of the greatest
The
performances ever.
best,
I'm
one
telling you,
of maybe the best performance of the 80s. Who knows? Who's to say?
easily,
Very.
easily.
It is, and this is the point where I do want to bring up a thing that we were all talking about in a chat a week or so ago, is the fucking disrespect of crowds in the theater
Oh yeah, yeah.
while he
Thank you for
is
bringing this up.
doing his old, while he is playing the role of a man losing his mind because he is ridden with dementia and grief.
Yeah,
At least in my theater at the Belcourt in Tennessee, a great place. Um, People were laughing pretty constantly throughout the movie at the most tragic shit in the world, and I almost had to leave. I was so mad.
From
Uh,
the 20th
yeah,
scene of the source material, King Lear, uh, a sight most pitiful in the meanest wretch, past speaking in a king, meaning that what has happened to Lear, the state that he is in, would be a fucking tragedy if it was the worst person you had ever known in your life, which I think this movie does a good job of convincing you.
yeah,
Hidetora
yeah.
Ichimonji very well may be that man. He
he might
may
be the
be the
worst
worst
person
It
motherfucker.
ever.
is pretty
Like,
fucking evil.
But the idea is that it's there is a comedy to it. You know, I understand. We're putting the wreath of flowers in his hair. He's doing old, demented, kind of losing his brain stuff. I will not argue against the fact that there is some visually comedic elements, particularly the part where he's running across the plane and it's like a big wide shot.
right.
You could play that in a Coen Brothers movie for absolute comedy.
Well,
Although I would offer
what's
that the Coen brothers would also add a second tone. There would be something else, and I think that that is my problem here. You should not be fucking laughing at this like it's an I Love Lucy sketch.
Yeah.
There is an emotional complexity to every one of these moments that you laughing and braying like a fucking donkey does not really give me the sense that you are having a complex, nuanced emotional reaction to a complex, nuanced emotional moment.
Yeah, you're not.
I
Yeah.
I similarly frequented the Bell Court when I was living in a closer proximity to there. Uh, and I'll mention one time when they were screening Dario Argento's Deep Red, and a couple of jackasses behind me and my friends were doing like their own barely whispered MST3K commentary of it until me and one of my roommates turned around at the exact same time and shushed them. This is a problem at repertory screenings.
Yeah.
And unless I've gotten very lucky with films like All That Jazz and Heat, where everyone pretty much just shuts the fuck up, unless it is a comedic scene.
Right.
But like I saw Blue Velvet at the Kentucky Theater not long after David Lynch passed, and people were laughing as the stripped naked and beaten Isabella Rossellini character was walking across Laura Dern's front yard.
I feel like that's the famous worst movie to see at a rep screening.
Shut
Honestly,
up.
yeah.
I have been very fortunate in my travels to not really encounter this. I've heard it many times from a buddy of mine who lives in Chicago and frequents the Music Box, that it
Music
happens
Box has a
there.
big problem with that.
I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of it from the East Coasters that I know, particularly in New York City. I've heard of it just about everywhere, and every time it'll come up, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they should be laughing at Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon's really fucking funny. There are
Yeah.
so many funny moments in Barry Lyndon. This
Yeah.
was one of the first I ever experienced where I was like, okay, I get it. These are not unfunny moments, but to give a contrast. There's a character that we've kind of not talked about yet, who I know Cole will be eager to kind of break into, Lady Kaide. And there's a scene where the trusty lieutenant to the second brother is kind of aware, or maybe just very much aware, that she's a schemer, that she's got like a whole ulterior motive going on. And he has this sequence where she has commanded the head of the second brother's wife. And so this lieutenant brings a bundle, hands it to her, she unwraps it, and it's a cement fox head. Kind of a funny visual, right? But you're like tense. You don't know how this is all going to go. When he's unbundling it, you're like, ooh, did he just decapitate that girl? Because she's really nice. I don't want to see her get hurt. There's this tension. And then it breaks into a relief of the tension with the comedy. And the lieutenant being like, oh, she was a human a minute ago, and now she must have been a fox. You better be careful, Lord. There are some crafty women in these parts. That sequence is funny.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you laugh at it, there's a discovery, there's an emotional process the movie takes you through, from suspense to relief to that's funny and silly to okay, we're back to the drama. She's pissed. She's ready to stab some guys again. That is how a movie works. You know, like it's when people are laughing along with that, there's a thing that they go through, like an arc almost, and that's just not present when you're snickering at whatever else, you know. One of the shots that, and I mean, again, it's not like it's not funny. It's not like you couldn't ever laugh at this, but it's like Hidatora with his bow and arrow after the guy gets shot going after the fool, and it's just like him with the arrow up in the window, and it's like, why is that funny? Because he's old? Are you just laughing because the guy's old?
Yeah.
My theory for this that I also shared in the chat when we had this discussion earlier is that people will just burn one and then go into a movie just fucking lit
Yeah,
and
And like
like
that's
have no compunction about like social interaction.
you gotta fucking get your shit together. I have no problem with that,
Like
but like,
lock it
behave.
down.
Right.
yeah. If you're going to like a rep screening of fucking Napoleon Dynamite, like be my guest. This
Right.
is
Clueless
Rod
35, yeah,
or
all
fucking
day long.
Blue Velvet. Like, what are you doing? How is that a fun time for you to get high hours and 40 minutes of like Japanese historical tragedy?
I get
Like,
why that would work. I have more composure.
yeah.
People are just irony poisons at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And
for
like
sure.
they're and you can tell when it's a, oh, I found this funny, and especially to the story that Morgan was telling about Deep Red, there's a version of the laughing or the commentary where it's, oh, I own this movie, I know it so well, and I'm above it affecting me. And it's like at that point, stop watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least get out of my theater.
Yeah.
I
Like,
usually don't have this experience much in LA. If it happens, it's when I'm at the New Bev, which is why I frankly don't go to the New Bev that much.
Yeah. I also hear they have uncomfortable seats there.
Oh,
Oh, the
terrible
seats
seats.
fucking suck so bad.
And sometimes you have to suffer through Quentin Tarantino being there.
Yeah.
So just to give kind of an overview, I think we've kind of been assuming that if you've listened this far, you probably have seen these movies. You've seen Ron. You get the setup. Again, it's King Lear. We've got the king. He's distributing his power. He wants to go to his three sons. There's kind of a test. In Shakespeare, it's more of like, prove your worth to me, and I'll kind of reward you accordingly, etc. One of the things that I kind of want to get into after having reread Lear, I started Lear before seeing this, finished it after. Lear is a much longer play and just had more stuff going on. There's a missing trio of characters here. Unlike Macbeth, where we do have a major character in Macduff who's gone. Yes, that's true. But we really have a strong fidelity. Losing these three characters in Lear is like, okay, whoa, hold on, that's destabilizing. What are we doing? And I think it's actually kind of interesting to me to reflect on how these figures work their way into the story and really into the movie's most interesting character. The three characters in the play that are not here are Gloucester, the Earl of Gloucester particularly, and his two sons, Edgar, who is a legitimate son, and Edmund the Bastard, who is not. And those three are just not here. Gloucester is like basically a loyal retainer to King Lear, similar to the character of Kent, who is in this movie. I'm not going to be able to remember his name though. I think it's like Tongo or something. Is like
Yes.
the guy who's loyal to Lear, to Hidatora in this movie.
Mhm.
That character is preserved. Gloucester is no longer there. And then we don't have the two sons. They're important because they form an entire parallel to Lear, and it is the only Shakespeare tragedy that has a B plot like this, that has a parallel plot that ultimately ends up like both reflecting and colliding with the main plot. And we lose a lot of these elements of like disguise. So basically, Edmund is running schemes trying to get his dad and the brother who are like legitimate. He's not going to be able to succeed, so he's trying to like craft his way up the ladder while simultaneously fucking these guys over. Edgar ends up adopting a disguise as like a mad beggar, and just all that stuff's gone here. And that's a little strange. I wouldn't really say that it factors into my enjoyment level of Ron, because honestly, until I reread it, I don't know that I would have had this sharp of a take on it. But more interestingly than any of that is the way that these characters do appear. I would say that Gloucester most closely connects to Surumaru, who is a young former lord, who's the son of a lord, who in the path to consolidating this kingdom, Hidatora killed his family, burnt down the castle, and blinded this kid. Basically
Mhm.
said, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you anymore. Bye. And that kind of represents Gloucester, a character that ends up getting blinded. It represents Edgar a little bit by his role at the end of the story as the kind of guy that survives the tragedy and like how do we go on from here. Um, he has a sister in this who, ooh, do I remember her name?
Lady Sue.
Sue. Thank you. I knew it was just a quick little one. I would say that she most closely represents either Edgar or Gloucester herself, where she's like the dutiful, faithful child. And I'll kind of circle back around to what she really represents in Ron, because the important thing to note is that Edmund, the bastard, the kind of deceiver, most closely represents this movie's X Factor, which is Lady Kade, who is somebody who has been wronged by the world and has decided to make it everyone's fucking problem, setting all the things into motion. And in this case, I mean, not everything. Some of it's King Lear's own doing
Mm.
and that kind of thing. And then there's like this parallel scheme. I think some of the ambition is lost. This is the most ambitious Shakespeare tragedy by a mile. It's not the longest, that's Hamlet, but this is the most like interlocking pieces, moving around, parallel stuff. It's also a play that I would say compared to Macbeth. Macbeth has an amazing story and great dialogue and all that stuff. So when you just make it a movie, having the story is like 90% of the battle. King Lear is much more dialogue driven. It's much more language driven. And so to convert it in this way to a historical film that is battle centric is a creative way to do it, but we are losing some of the things that are the engines of this story. And I think that does contribute a little bit to my overall like, I don't think it's I don't think it's the better Shakespeare adaptation. I don't. It loses too many of the nuts and bolts and parts and layers of the story to really be as good of a translation as Macbeth, which does not have to sacrifice as much in Throne of Blood. That's how I'd put it.
I do think that by losing some of the nuts and bolts of Gloucester and everybody else, that the film really nails its post-apocalyptic feeling.
Sure.
This is an abandoned, dying world. I mean, you don't even see any of the villagers
Right.
at all.
Whereas King Lear is like proto. It's actually kind of like early pagan. It is forming its way up to civilization. This is
Yeah.
also forming its way up to civilization, but it's like the death of the
This is the
feudal system.
apocalypse. This is the end of everything. This is the asteroid hitting the Earth.
Hmm.
So I think that by isolating these characters and having Lear even more alone, you really get that sensation of just what a waste his entire life has been. Because it's all been for evil. He's done nothing right. all he did was teach his children how to kill and torture and
Right.
become awful human
And
beings.
build a kingdom that ultimately splits apart.
Mhm. And, falls apart because of his own actions and through Lady Coyote's mechanisms. So the thing about Lady Coyote, if the Wicked Witch of the West is movie villain number 1A, she is movie villain number 1B.
Where does Maleficent fit into this?
Two.
All right, fine.
Love an evil one. Love
All
an
right.
evil one.
All right.
But the thing with her is that you could argue that she is almost completely justified in her actions. They Hidetora murdered her parents, murdered her entire family, made her a slave, then married her off to one of the sons. So you kind of get where this whole burn down the fucking world attitude comes from.
I would say that
There's a movie to be told from her perspective where you're like, yeah, that's naturally the thing you would do.
It's called Furiosa.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good comparison. The
Oh yeah.
I
there's
was
a
gonna pithily say it's called "I Spit on Your Grave," but your prompt is better.
Furiosa forms an
Jesus.
interesting mirror, which I'll talk a little bit about because I think what the movie does with these characters was really what I was focused on last time because I was kind of in the middle of the play and all that stuff, rereading it. The characters of Sue, Surumaru, Kaede represent different reactions to the prompt of forgiveness in the face of absolute fucking evil.
Mhm.
Sue turns to religion, right? And she's this Buddhist character who is like, look, you took my family, you took my castle, you took my title, you forced me into marrying the thing. What I've learned from this is that all life is temporary. Don't get too fucking attached, you know? And there's this forgiveness that almost, I would say, like drives Citatora crazy, but he literally goes crazy, so I don't want to say that. But it like sticks in him. He doesn't know what to do with this character that should hate him, but is
Mhm.
showing him grace. So that's number one. And she's an important piece of the Kaede puzzle to me. Two is Surumaru, who has been blinded, cast out. He doesn't know how to forgive. He is living in a state of limbo. He is spiritually blind. He is unsure how to move forward because everything's been taken from him. He doesn't have anything. You know, he wanders around on the mercy of others in some ways. Um, and then you have Kaide, who is like, fuck forgiveness. Fuck your forgiveness. I don't give a shit, which is satisfying, although the way that it ends up evolving symbolically is so
Mhm.
different from Furiosa. Furiosa is a character who ultimately chooses mercy, who
Yeah.
ultimately chooses rebirth. And that's Sue, and Kaede is like, fucking cut her head off. And
Yep.
there's no reason for her to do it. It's all symbolic, it's all cruelty. I mean, it destabilizes the Ichimonjis a little bit. Like it forces the husband to do something that's beyond the pale. She's kind of like a Lady Macbeth figure who's like pushing and prodding, not for her own benefit, but for their own destruction. So she's
Because
just given up on humanity. She's just like,
right.
fuck it, I don't care.
Because she's married to the oldest son who dies
Yeah,
during the raid on the castle. So then she,
right.
hops right over to.
Dies during the raid to he gets shot in the fucking back.
Well, yeah. When you put it that way. Also, just a quick aside. Oh my fucking god, the way that they shoot gunshots in this movie, gun violence has never looked more
Yeah, the sort of
evil.
squibs and
The red, just bright flashes of red and smoke.
yeah,
More candle wax than an Argento picture in this bitch.
yeah.
Yeah, so Kaede moves on to the second son and is it's like, hey, you're gonna fucking marry me, right? I'm gonna be your only woman, right?
And that's
Right?
very Edmund-esque as he moves from one sister to the other and
Yeah.
wreaks havoc everywhere he goes on everybody. I think
There ain't never
that
been
character's
a
much more morally like, what? What's going on with him? Like you understand, but you don't. And I do like that a little bit more than I like Kaede, but she's the best part of this movie. I won't front and say anything less than that. She is.
Hmm.
there ain't
Her
never
death
been a
scene's fucking A plus.
I mean,
Spoilers.
the fucking like geyser of blood.
And just like the way that he's like standing in front of her in like the red samurai and he's like staggered, like, ah, fuck.
there ain't never been a character in literature named Edmund that wasn't a bitch.
A bitch.
Fun fact: I played Edmund in a production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I was 8 years old because
Yeah.
someone looked at me and said, "You look like a fucking bastard."
How were those Turkish delights though?
Uh, I actually got Turkish delights after the show was done because my parents were like, "You should actually see what how they taste." They're
Uh,
terrible.
This is what I've heard.
They're
I
awful.
I've had good Turkish delight. Depends on how you make it. What I'll say in
mhm.
Edmund's defense is one, they were bewitched, and two,
It
he
was
was
the
living under
boys.
war rations, and it was probably the first time he'd had sugar in a little minute.
That's
Uh,
true. That's true.
So,
He was
You know,
still a punk ass.
no
everyone named
doubt,
He
everyone named
was a
Edmund sucks. We all agree.
he was a
yeah,
rat.
no doubt. I have just
Rat.
this will be my last like real King Lear thought of this entire conversation, but at some point reading it, I was like, I need Bobby Eggers to show up and do like a Northman type beat, but for King Lear, which is even more appropriate of a Shakespeare play to do this with. Do that shit in black and white. Willem Dafoe is King Lear. Got you a little Anya Taylor-Joy as Cordelia. Like we can make some shit happen. We could Ralph Ineson could be our Gloucester, blinded, rambling, talking about the felid stars and shit. I don't know. Could be really fucking good, Robert. Call me. Call me.
He's a little busy at the moment.
I
He's
don't
got
give a
some.
fuck about Charles Dickens. Get right.
That's not even the one he's working on right now.
All right, he's doing the werewolf thing. But I don't give a fuck
Oof.
about Aaron Taylor Johnson either. Although Aaron Taylor Johnson, if we were doing the King Lear thing, could be a mean Oswald because he's a punk bitch.
I don't want Aaron Taylor Johnson anywhere fucking near the words of William Shakespeare. He can barely get out the words of Alex Garland
But
successfully.
if you felt a disgust towards him in the movie, that would work. That would
Mm.
be the character. You'd be like, "Oh, stab him in the fucking face." And then it happens and you're like, "Yeah."
Uh, I just never want to see that guy again.
Well, he had to stick around.
Yeah.
So Ron, it's like the best shit ever, right? We're all in agreement on that one.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie ever made.
Yeah.
Number one,
Number
over
one
Sunrise. It was Murnau's Sunrise for a time, I
for a
think.
time, and then it was tussling with rules of the game for a little bit.
Yeah, both absolute classics.
Hmm. But yeah, for me, this movie just nails. It's the perfect distillation of the struggle to stay alive, even when you know everything's going to hell, which speaks to me emotionally in a very, very deep way, in a personal way.
There's a career long, like if I wanted to try to establish some through line of all the Kurosawa movies, there's a
Mhm.
real sense of like you're here and then you're gone, and you don't leave much of a mark on the world. Like your story is your story, and that matters, but we struggle and struggle to not really do much of anything. And
Mhm.
Ikiru's about finding purpose and finding a way that you can at least show people that you gave a shit while you were here and put
Ah,
something into something that might make somebody a little happier. But
mhm.
that's about as much impact as a Kurosawa character can really have on the world, right?
Mhm.
In Yojimbo, he shows up and he has a certain impact, but also a bunch of people fucking die and he moves on at the end of it, right? He's not
Mhm.
nothing's permanent. There's a real sense of impermanence.
Yeah.
And it's what do you do? Rashomon, you have the baby crying in the temple. What do you do in the face of that impermanence? And I definitely, I mean, Throne of Blood is about as fucking bleak as a movie can be. That's a grim
Yeah.
movie. Although I think when Kurosawa goes grim, there's a tendency to like think about it the other way. Like you don't have to make this choice. You can be different. And
Mhm.
I think that there's maybe something that just he's very optimistic to me as a filmmaker.
He is, and when you compare him to the other like humanist filmmakers, like when I think of a humanist filmmaker, I think of someone like Hirokazu Koreeda. Hirokazu Koreeda's never made the movie about what if you just rejected humanity, and I think that's a big part of what these two movies are about. And even a lot of the characters in Bad Sleep Well are also what if you rejected
Yeah.
the like natural call to be good to each other,
Mhm.
and what does that turn you into? And the answer is it turns you into a ghoul, like
Hmm.
in the classic monster sense of your face and body contort and you are
And
a
yet,
husk.
in a way, Ichimonji's biggest failure is that he thinks for a second that with all this bloodshed, he has earned loyalty and love and tenderness from his
Mhm.
sons, and
Yeah,
that they are not warlords.
yeah, warlords that are just even if they're not ready to admit it to themselves, just like waiting and chomping at the bit, gnawing at the cage to take their dad's fucking head off.
Right. Yeah. Which I think is implied or directly said that he also did to his
Yeah.
father, or maybe that's a line in Throne of Blood about the guy that Mifune kills, like the King Duncan character of that movie. It could be one, it could be the other. Point being, like, this ain't new.
I believe it's that Ichimonji killed his dad
Dad or whoever.
In Throne of Blood, there's the great moment where Tashiro's facing off against a bunch of people, and he's like, "You're going to kill your own king," and they're like, "How the fuck do you think you became king, man?"
Right,
Which is a
right,
great
right.
line.
I think both of these movies traffic very much in that concept, like
Yeah,
fuck loyalty,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know. But
Mhm.
also at the same time, when you say that, you better have an iron fist. And the second that it's not,
yeah.
fuck loyalty.
Yeah.
You get a lot more chances if you're a decent person. If you're
Yeah,
if you're awful, you get one chance, but
right,
Mhm.
that's it.
And if you miss, you get your head fucking chopped off.
Yeah,
right. Or you live long enough to see your kid take that bullet and then you just die.
yeah,
You just fucking die. You're like, well, that's it for me.
yeah.
Signing out.
The funeral sequence is just otherworldly.
Yet another tie to Mario Puzo's The Godfather. Seeing your
Yeah.
kid take one and then just piecing out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's no Michael here.
There
No.
isn't.
God, no.
There is a similar, I actually was thinking there is kind of a similar thing going on, just like in terms of like the three brothers succession, and it's different dynamics, like the old one's not the hothead necessarily, and the middle one's maybe a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yeah.
there is kind of an interesting parallel there with the Don and the succession and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Ron may have been too overbearingly depressing if there was a Michael.
Like somebody that has to take up the reins. That's
Yeah.
kind of that's the
Somebody who
Edgar
has to take up
character.
the somebody who has to take up the reins and is in fact worse.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's for sure. That is kind of the end of Lear, is that you've got these surviving, you've got Albany, you've got Edgar, and they're just sitting around going, "Fuck, what do we do now?"
And it's even bleaker in this movie because literally all you have at the end is Tsunemaru standing at the edge of a
Yeah,
cliff.
Yeah.
having
Or
dropped the
down.
Buddhist scroll down,
Uh-huh.
like even mercy has no place here,
And the
just
guy
just
is
nothing.
blind. He's about to fall down and die.
Yeah. And he clearly knows that like the step isn't there, and
Yep.
he might still just take it anyway.
Uh-huh.
I mean, everything's gone, right?
Yeah.
Even Sue, which might have been like his last tether to anything
Mhm.
soft and nice and human, has been
Brutally
obliterated.
murdered.
Yeah.
Everything is ash.
Yeah. Bro don't even have his flute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Died. Dying for a flute.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
I
rough.
probably would have stayed put, but that's just me.
But yeah, no, this movie really speaks to me on a very personal level about
I would
struggling
say that
with the person in hell.
I totally lied when I said I was going to stop talking about King Lear, but this isn't really about that. I would say that this version of it kind of almost feels closer to Greek theater. Like, I've been reading Euripides, and they're just like, it's a little simpler. It's a little more direct. And that's how Macbeth is too, for sure. I wouldn't say that Macbeth is especially Greek the way that this, but it's just like grandiose and emotional tragedy, operatic, as you said. When we think about the differences in theater, when we think about theater, it's the black box, right? It's small, it's probably kind of intimate, black. But in Greek theater, you are at the amphitheater projecting to the whole damn thing. And Ron has an element of that, Throne has an element of that. These movies just feel larger than life.
Yeah, they feel as big as the entire sky.
I think Shakespeare's a little bit more abstract. You know what I found interesting? There's a storm sequence in Macbeth, or not Macbeth, excuse me. There is a storm sequence in Macbeth, but there's a storm sequence in King Lear, and there's no rain in Ron. You're like the rain director, and you didn't have like a little thunder for me. You have these shots of clouds in this movie. You didn't have like a little bit of like pow, 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 pow
Like
during
Well,
the
that whole
name of
thing.
this movie is Almost Rain.
There you go.
Daz looking into the etymology of the title of this movie, and
Mhm.
in the traditional sense, it means or in the sense that Kurosawa was going for, we're pretty sure it means rebellion or something along those lines. Uh,
Chaos.
but but other translations have it as storm or tempest.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's the wrong one, Akira. Different play.
The movie's called Chaos in a lot of European countries, which I think also fits to that, the storm that never rains, just everything is fucking broken.
Like
right.
from Sonic Adventure.
Yes.
If I could strangle you for this movie,
What the hell are you talking about?
So, so the Chaos Emeralds
Shut up!
in
Shut,
Sonic
shut,
Adventure. There's
shut,
like a little blue
shut,
guy. And he's
shut.
um,
He's muted himself.
No, I muted him.
Oh, that's an incredible bit. He's still going.
oh my God.
I feel the need, as we
Let's
have
check.
not yet, to just briefly, maybe in closing, shout out an important character in this film, played by a performer who I will just refer to as Peter, who you may know from
Icon.
Toshio Matsumoto's greatest fucking film ever made, Funeral Parade of Roses, where
Mhm.
they are the main character. They
great
play
film.
the fool in this, which is a very important role. This really connects to the Greek theater aspect, almost performing like a chorus role.
Yeah.
Somebody who speaks what the
Mhm.
audience thinks or maybe experiencing or feeling. And just in the context, again, from this Oxford edition, this role of the fool was usually in the 1800s, long after Shakespeare's death, as it was being restaged. It became common to be portrayed by a woman, reflecting the asexuality of the role, which I think is something that is carried forward really fucking brilliantly with this casting.
Mhm.
Just something
Absolutely.
that's funny. It's androgynous, it's clever, it's wise. A lot of the dialogue actually feels alive from Shakespeare translated into this character because it is playful, it is a jester. It's somebody who can kind of speak in a more heightened language and things like
Mhm.
that. And that's just a character that I really enjoy every time I revisit this film.
Yeah, it's the magic of drag.
Indeed. Any closing thoughts? Any others?
No,
This
I'm ready to do
guy,
another 2 hours.
this guy Kurosama, he might have been okay. He
Yeah.
might have known what was up.
I definitely got to that Ron screening and was like, this was a good amount of Kurosawa to watch, which was something like 14 movies, which is a ton.
Mm,
Hmm.
So I felt good about, but I wasn't like ready for round two, but I was like, I had that exact fill. I think having Dreams and Ron be like the closers to the series was a nice touch because they
Yeah.
feel like wrapping up a career. We've moved into color. They're more modern.
Yeah,
Akira,
Ron, that's spectacular.
Akira August versus my Aronofsky August.
Yeah.
I
Caught
The
Stealing coming to theaters near you. It's very good. Go watch it.
the Aronofsky August so far very fittingly being a movie I enjoyed but did not love, and a movie I damn near hated.
Yeah.
wanted to see Black Swan in IMAX, but I just ran out of time.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was happening, and then all my friends who like movies less than me logged Black Swan and IMAX. I was like, I didn't even know. No one told me.
Yeah.
That's a
Alas.
that's a tune.
Yeah.
That one chugs.
Alas, poor Yorick.
Banger. That's Hamlet. But
I know.
has there been a good Hamlet movie? Like a not The Northman? I like The Northman a lot, but like something more Hamlet-y.
Davey's gonna about to say that the Kenneth Branagh one's good, and it's not.
It is. It's
No, it
very
isn't.
it's perfunctory, but it's the one thing Branagh's good at.
I'll
Yeah.
say Northman just
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
it is.
Branagh
It's
playing Hamlet makes me want to kill myself.
he is not a great actor in the film. I will
that's a
give you that.
problem.
That's
Seems like
the
the issue.
I don't disagree that it's a problem.
That seems like
that's that's the problem.
Kind of, yeah.
that's like having our Hamlet be played by Matthew Broderick. Oh, wait a minute.
You know.
Was
And
this
on that note,
before or after? Well, I mean, he has experience killing people, so he would get it.
I should have played Claudius.
But yeah,
I
the Branagh Hamlet is
if
perfectly good.
It's denied Jeremy Irons. Like what?
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point.
get to Kenneth Lonergan Hamlet and maybe Matthew Broderick
Maybe.
can play
That,
Claudius.
now that'd be a movie I'd watch.
Indeed.
We don't need any more Hamlets. We need people to adapt the weird shit and
What the
have
hell
people
is
other
he?
than
We
Branagh.
haven't nailed Hamlet yet,
We have not.
I don't
so
What the
really
I'm
what
gonna
think
the,
I'm
we
gonna
need.
disagree with you there.
what
I
the
don't think
hell
we
is
need
Kenneth
a
Lonergan?
perfect Hamlet. We can just have Hamlet be on the stage. I'm
Where the
I
okay
hell
with
is
guess,
Kenneth
yeah,
Lonergan?
No,
Wait,
fuck you.
who needs to come
I mean,
back?
someone needs to do it.
yeah, I agree.
I'm trying to think of who could.
someone do like 12th Night or something. Something fun.
No,
That's
let's
I'm
run
not saying
Veronica's
don't
back.
do. I'm not saying don't do Twelfth Night. Also, I'm just saying like there's some pivotal text that we have not
Yeah,
encapsulated in its best form.
Othello, Macbeth, Lear, nailed it. Haven't really nailed Romeo and Juliet. It's all right.
I
It's a lot
think
of riffs.
between the two West Side Story movies, I think
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
count
yeah,
it.
yeah. And it's such an iconic. We have a really good Othello by Orson Welles.
Hmm?
There's a Julius Caesar that stars Marlon Brando as Mark Antony that is good.
It's like yeah, it's fine. Very
It's like,
Oh,
very stately film.
yeah, and it's a
But
stately play. I think
yeah, I
that
was about to
fits.
say it's
mhm.
not anywhere near one of my favorites.
I greatly enjoy Julie Taymor's Titus, but that's about it for the tragedies. Hamlet's really the big one that we haven't really gotten off the bat yet.
What's the over under on Emerald Fennell's Titus Andronicus?
Shut the fuck up.
I'm trying to think what would piss me off more, and it's probably her doing the Tempest, where
Ooh,
like
yeah.
Prospero's making fucking pussy jokes or whatever. I don't need that. I
I
don't need that in my life. I mean, honestly, yes, I do. There's a lot of vaginal euphemisms in Shakespeare, which if you don't cut me off, I will start talking about.
Think
So
of
maybe
it.
that's a sign to just put a bow on all this. Akira Kurosawa, what a great time to get to revisit. Um, Awesome to have a Spike Lee movie at the same time that felt so cohesive and synergistic, to use the corporate lingo.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, just one of the best. Hard to put a button. Hard to put all that into a jar, but I think we did about as well as we could have.
yeah.
Yeah.
In
So
what will clearly be the longest episode in this iteration to date.
indeed. Well, we've only had two, so
Yeah.
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 The
And
longest one
that'll
so far.
happen when you add another motherfucker for
I, I
sure.
don't I don't think anything will top the Disney episode.
Yeah,
Sure.
that was a saga
I
for
mean,
for
we
the
had
whole
to
time.
take a fucking intermission.
There was an intermission, and the intermission happened at like midnight. Uh, anyway,
Yeah, it's 1 in the
Davey,
morning here. It doesn't matter.
thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad that we found an opportunity to get together and talk again. Let's not have it be so long before you show up next time.
Hey,
Uh,
I'm always down to talk for 3 hours and 40 minutes or however Morgan edits this down to. There's been nothing but lovely, and I appreciate y'all very much.
I think we don't have a plan for what the next episode is, but of course we do have an Aronofsky movie coming up. We will find some time. I think at some point we'll wrangle over Riley, even if it's just me and him, to talk some of the things that they've gotten to see at the festival circuit, some upcoming releases, maybe just a preview for what we'll be doing in the fall and winter, and we'll play it by ear. We'll take a
I
little
mean,
break ski and come back.
we are staring down the barrel at one battle after another.
Indeed. Yeah, there has been some talk about some Polly Tommy Andy and going through his back catalog, but we need to do a little sorting and figuring stuff out. So we'll talk to you guys on the next one. Thank you all for listening, and thank you guys so much for joining and talking about these great movies. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.